Welcome to Past the Projections.
Fantasy experts, really. You should really consider us the pinnacle of fantasy football knowledge.
The host, Adam Skinner, the coach. There was a lot of debate on whether or not he would be that great. The guru, Thomas Lozano.
Kid's a playmaker, like you touched on there for a second.
Statman, Danny Pert.
Definitely a touchdown threat. Love the frame, love what I saw from him.
The wizard, Chris Roth.
Solid player with good floors.
The coach, the guru, the statistician, and the wizard. Talking fantasy football, Dynasty League specifically.
I just come here because I like to talk. And if you want to listen to me, it's completely on you.
Beautiful. Yes. Come listen to us. Today is the day, ladies and gentlemen, to listen to us. Past the Projections crew. Once again, Adam Skinner, Thomas Lozano, Chris Roth, Danny Pert still out with the baby, though he did make an appearance for draft night on Thursday. It was a very brief appearance. Would we like to recap it?
Let's just say he's sleep deprived.
Yes.
Sleep deprived and has been at the house for a while now.
He's been locked up and he got out and fell asleep. But enjoyed the draft. Draft night. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the chips have fallen, the picks have landed, the ship is sailed. Some other phrase. It is time. It's time now. We're doing officially the rookie mock draft, the first, way too early rookie mock draft, to be honest, because there are a lot more pieces to fall. There are still the undrafted rookies, obviously training camp, injuries, and then preseason. Everything's going to change. But we're still going to give you that insight with the initial drafting of all these players. You guys have any draft night surprises that came out? Just want to mention off the top of your head that you saw?
I was a little surprised with the Broncos not taking a quarterback.
Yeah.
Taking Surtain instead, especially with Fields there. Apparently according to the Broncos camp, a lot of them actually really did like Fields a lot. There's some rumors floating around that the Packers wanted Surtain, and maybe they had some sort of kind of deal in the background where if they draft them, then maybe he can get thrown in with some sort of Rodgers
thing. Aaron Rodgers thing, yeah. There was a lot of talk about that, but kind of dying down. We'll see.
Yeah. I hope it doesn't happen. I have some bets against the Bengals versus the Broncos. Not the smartest bets, but I always make them. So I'm hoping it doesn't happen, because if it doesn't, then the Bengals have a chance.
There you go. That's not bad. Thomas, any surprise stand out to you?
As far as our first round goes, maybe a couple more offensive players than I had initially thought,
right.
And then even that was mocked by a lot of the analysts. And so seeing where some of these guys went, I absolutely love it for some of them, and I absolutely hate it for some of them. So those lists that we made just a couple weeks ago are shredded at this point.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but there's definitely some big jumpers and some fallers there, and some guys who are still right around the same. So I'm excited to dive into this a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. We have a lot to cover. I won't take too long. I do just want to give a quick honorable mention to my Eagles. Trading with your team, Thomas, the Cowboys. So that's wild. And jumping ahead of another division rival to grab Devonta Smith. I'm happy with that. And then in classic Eagles fashion, in the third round, trading down 3 spots and having the Lions draft a player that caused the entire Eagles war room to basically go on revolt against Howie Roseman. If you haven't seen that video, it's worth watching. Because the new Eagles coaching staff is not happy with Howie Roseman. Right after, because the Lions, what happened in the third round is that at pick 70, the Eagles traded back, got an extra 6th rounder, I think. They figured their defensive tackle would fall to them, and the Lions had already drafted defensive tackle. They didn't think they'd take him, and they took the guy they wanted, and the entire war room was pissed. And Howie Roseman's walking around clapping, like, it's okay, guys, don't worry.
Wow.
It was not okay. So another
classic Eagles.
Eagles doing Eagles things.
Yeah, my Howie Roseman blundered. That guy still has a job. It's a miracle. Anyway, moving on. Let's get to this mock draft. There's a lot to talk about, and now that these pieces have fallen, we know where to go with this. We're basing this mock on single quarterback leagues, PPR. No tight end premium, obviously no Superflex. In Superflex it will change. We'll cover that a little bit at the end of our mock draft. But for us, we like to do the standard 12-team league. We're going to do 3 rounds, a typical rookie draft. And the 3 of us will be drafting. There will be a computer drafting for Danny Pert, and we'll analyze the picks that computer makes for him while Danny can't be with us as they come in. So, am I forgetting anything? Is that all? Yeah, I think we're ready to go.
I think so.
Yeah, I think that about covers it.
Okay, awesome. That being said, before the podcast started, we picked the orders, and Thomas snaked the first pick, and then Chris tried to get away from him by randomizing it, and he kept the first pick. So, Thomas, with your first pick in the rookie draft, who are you taking?
I'm pretty sure he's the unquestioned number 1 at this point, unless you are playing in Superflex, which, like we said, we can cover here in a little bit. But Naji Harris is and was the number 1 coming in, is the number 1 coming out. He lands in the most ideal place that you can land for his skill set and the type of running back that he is. So with that 1-1, I expect to see Naji Harris really coming off draft boards at that position. Any later, I think, is maybe a little bit of a crime.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any way Naji Harris won't be the first position player off the boards. As you mentioned, that was the ideal landing spot for him. That was the ideal landing spot in the NFL for any running back. And as you like to mention, and I'll be mentioning here in just a second, draft capital. And Naji Harris, when you take a first-round pick on a running back, he's going to play. So that guy is you're getting a running back who's going to be a starter from day one. He's going to get plenty of carries. The Steelers love to run the ball. They run that zone scheme, and it fits him perfectly.
He should. I'm almost certain he should be an RB1 coming into this season.
I would be shocked.
He should be in the top 12, top 14 on most people's rankings. Just given what he can do, he's a pass catcher, and he's willing to pound the ball in between the tackles on first and second down. So he's going to be, I think, given every opportunity to succeed. And the fact that offense did pass, I believe, way more than they ran the ball last year, should open a lot of things up for him, and he should be some fantasy gold for whoever does get that 1-1.
Yeah, I've seen he's even crossed some boards 1-1 in Superflex leagues. So depending on your spot, he's definitely a guy looking pretty good. Chris.
There's one interesting thing I saw as well when I was kind of looking at him. He does have some high mileage. He had a little over 3,800 yards in college and also 2,700 yards in his senior year of high school. So with about over 6,000 yards in the past 4 years, that could take a toll eventually. I mean, the first few years it's not going to matter. He's going to tear it up. He's going to be great. But it's something to keep in mind though with Dynasty is he could flame out a little bit earlier than some.
Yeah, it's definitely long-term goals, but as of right now, he's 1-1, and there's no way to stop that. The second pick goes to Danny, who computer immediately drafted already, and chose Travis Etienne. I don't think that's too much of a shock, but Thomas, what do you think about that pick there?
I like the pick still. I do like Etienne there at that 2 position, and like you said, I like to touch on the draft capital, and the Jags took Travis Etienne in the first round. I know on our running back rankings show we talked about maybe James Robinson being a little volatile. This is absolutely what we were talking about, is going into the draft and selecting one of these top running backs like Naji Harris, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams. If any sort of shakeup happens there, it could be devastating to James Robinson's value. And with drafting a guy like Etienne, I think that it's going to be a big hindrance on his value because they're going to use this guy. He can pass. He can receive the ball out of the backfield, but a lot of his work is just done one cut, and he sees the hole and he makes his move. Not super athletic down the field, but they're still going to look to link him up with Trevor Lawrence there and make magic happen.
Yeah, Chris, what do you think about it?
I like it. Again, like Thomas said, going up against James Robinson, that might be tough a little bit at the very beginning. But when we talk about draft capital, J-Rob basically has nothing. And especially with the new coaching staff coming in, they're not necessarily looking at him as their guy. Now that Etienne came in and they picked him, he has that connection to Lawrence. They're not going to. I don't think they're going to waste much time on Robinson. They may even trade him to one of those more running back needy teams coming up. But I think they're going to run Etienne pretty much from the beginning.
Yeah, draft capital is really what speaks volumes here. It's just when you take a first-round pick on a running back, there's a reason. And Urban Meyer came out and said that they're going to use him as a third-down back, James Robinson, and they did sign Carlos Hyde, but I don't know if I believe any of that. I do, however, I'm not a big fan of that landing spot. I would have rather he went to a team like the Falcons or the Cardinals or somewhere where he just was clear-cut number one. Whereas right now he's coming into a spot with James Robinson. There's going to be a lot of questions in that backfield. And me personally, I have this number 2 pick in our league that I need a running back. I'm not really a fan of picking. I'm not sure I want to take him in that position over some of these other guys. So
You want to pull an Eagles and trade out? Let's talk.
I've been trying to trade out for a while because there's, I don't know.
I haven't gotten any offers.
Well, I've been looking, waiting for the chips to fall. You always play. I'm patient. I'm playing the long game here.
Fair.
Well, I'm not.
But at least for all those reasons though that we were just kind of listing, new coaching staff, James Robinson is owed nothing. He's an undrafted free agent. They really don't have any ties to him, and they could really let him go without any sort of hit. But obviously, he still holds some value there and brings something to that running game. But I think ultimately, Etienne is going to end up the number 1 guy there. Like I said, him and Lawrence. And for fantasy purposes, that could be huge because you can see a lot of dink and dunks to Etienne and a lot of goal line work. So I'm still really a big fan of where he landed, just given the facelift that the Jacksonville Jaguars just went under.
Yeah, I will say I'm a huge fan of the talent. I still think that's there, obviously. And in fantasy, I'm just not sure he's a running back 1 right away. Given the situation, he's probably coming out running back 2, running back 3, even depending on how the preseason goes and how much James Robinson is involved. So that scares me with the 2nd pick overall. But
for sure.
With running back being the premium it is in Dynasty, this makes a lot of sense. So that's probably how it's going to go in most leagues. Chris, do you have the 3rd pick? Who are you taking?
Kind of following the mold here. Also, with him sitting right there, I'm sure you guys could have expected that. We're going reunification again. We're getting we want to get Chase and Burrow back together. Chase is such a dynamic player. He had an insane year last year that he played. He did opt out. That, in theory, could have hurt his stock a little bit, but it was already as highest as it could have been ever. I think if he would have kept playing, I think it might have actually hurt him a little bit. He's just such a good player, and he's going to be on that team for a very long time. And I think it's one of those things too. I always do like running backs are a necessity because of scarcity, but in Dynasty, I love having a really good young receiver who's going to be putting up points year over year over year for you because you can kind of build around them. And once you get to that point, you're ready to go, pull the trigger on a couple younger running backs, and then you're set.
Yeah, I don't think there's any chance Chase leaves the Bengals as long as Burrow's there. Those two are tied to each other's careers now, and that's a pretty darn good thing. I like that 3rd overall selection. I consider him he could go higher. It is a match made in heaven. He's the most talented receiver in the draft, and as you mentioned, receivers last a long time. You might see 15 years out of this guy of production. Granted, in Dynasty, we're not worried about that far down the road. I could still see him having a year 1 breakout. He's going into a situation where he's going to get looks on that team. He'll be on the outside. Now you move T. Higgins to the inside, or probably the other side. No, and Boyd's going to operate on the slot. But either way, you still got a lot of passing talent on the field with a new rookie quarterback. That's going to be a fun situation in Cincinnati. What do you think?
And they did still actually manage to upgrade their O-line a little bit as well. Everyone sees that sweet New Jersey promo they put out there with that gnarly scar on Burrow's knee, but they did at least still fix up some of that. So even though it wasn't Sewell, it's still going to be an improved O-line.
Yeah. Thomas.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love Jamar Chase's upside and what he does offer. I don't know that I would have gone with him here just because this draft is deep at wide receiver. I know I got a Bengals lifer here sitting next to me, but that line is still going to take some time, I think, to kind of come together. And now he's going to maybe not have as big a target share as he might have had he gone someplace like, let's say, Miami, if he ended up there, or even another team where he would have been the solidified number 1. With Higgins, there. You've got Boyd there. They're saying Mixon's going to be back on the mend. So, I mean, it's a lot of touches to go around. And just given the scarcity at the tight end position, I would have gone another direction, which I believe is the direction you're going to be going on this next pick.
Yeah, it is, and actually, that's a really good point you bring up because I do agree with that. If I'm sitting at 4 right here in this draft and I see Kyle Pitts on the board, I'm ecstatic and I'm going to take him right away.
I'm loving it
because if he fell past 3, it is. Good luck finding a tight end anyway, but you find the guy who ended in an ideal situation. I do understand Chase's talent is great, but Pitts I think is on the same level except from the tight end position. There are plenty of receivers in this draft to grab, so yes. 4th pick, I do take Kyle Pitts. And, I mean, look, you saw what Matt Ryan did with Tony Gonzalez early on in his career. This guy's in a great position on an offense where he's not going to get double-teamed a lot because they still have Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley to worry about. Defenses are going to have a lot of problems with a team that also can't stop anybody on defense and is going to throw the ball 600-plus times this year. The guy's in a perfect situation with a potential – with an all-pro quarterback, almost Hall of Fame level. I mean, Matt Ryan can be. I'm not a big Matt Ryan fan, to be honest, but he's still a really good quarterback. So I don't think there's any doubt that guy's got to be top 5. I said it before the draft, but for sure he's locked in now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, had I had that 3rd pick, I think if it comes down to those two, like I mentioned, just that scarcity at tight end would lean me towards Pitts. Matt Ryan got Austin Hooper paid a ton of money by the Cleveland Browns because of what he was able to do from that tight end position. So you bring in a guy like Pitts who's super talented. He's going to get the touches. The Julio Jones, I don't want to say he's going to get phased out, but obviously there's been some serious talk about potentially even trading him post June 1st. So that's going to be another one of those things to definitely keep your eye on, because if it turns into the Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts show, then feed me as much Kyle Pitts as you possibly can, as early as you can, because that kid's going to be a monster.
Yeah,
the one thing that did make me pick between the two is I feel like Chase is tied to the rising star of Burrow, where like you said, Matt Ryan was an amazing quarterback, is still a good quarterback, but how much longer does he have left in him? I'm seeing him leaving in a couple years as it is, and then at that point, is Pitts quarterback proof? I don't know if we know the answer to that one yet. He very well could be. If out of anyone, he has one of the higher chances of being quarterback proof. But that is a question mark in the near future.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about, and I think for me, even, I don't think this talent can fall any further than he did at 4. And honestly, with the 2nd pick in the draft, that's actually who I'd consider over Etienne. I'm thinking about, because why would I not? With a tight end like this at this level, he is probably the one that landed in the most ideal spot in the league, other than Naji Harris. So it's pretty great.
And with that line in Cincy, though, like I said, still kind of developing and seeing where it might still be on thin ice this upcoming year. If Burrow misses any time, what happens to all of these wide receivers in Cincy's value? It's going to take a huge hit. And so that's another thing you got to think about. Obviously, with injuries, you worry about that with everybody. But if Burrow keeps getting hit the same way he got hit his rookie season, I don't care how talented you are. If you don't have a guy who can get you the ball, period, your hit's going to be just taking a hit, period.
Yeah.
Like Shanahan said, we don't even know if we're going to be alive by Sunday.
Yeah. Don't think that far ahead. Oh, that's a great point, Chris. Perfect. 5th pick, Thomas, you're up.
So this is where things start to get a little tricky here. And for the reason that we were just talking about with wide receiver being a little deeper, I really like Jalen Waddle here. To take someone with his talent, where he went, the type of playmaker that he is, to get him, I think, in the middle of this round is going to be pretty good. I'm not in love with a couple of these other wide receivers in the area, and with the other running backs. I know I had the 1st pick in this smaller draft, so obviously I covered that with Naji Harris. So to get a talent like Jalen Waddle, who is certainly going to be a home run, and we know how much I love the home run hitters. Yeah. He's going to be someone I would love to have on my roster.
Yeah, he was the guy going into the draft. I really wanted to know where he'd land, and he went higher than even most people thought. and they thought he was going to go top 10. So for him to land in Miami at 6 shows just how talented that kid was. He was the number 1 receiver in Alabama until he got hurt. Devonta Smith might have only won the Heisman because he was hurt. It's definitely something to consider when you're thinking about how Jalen Waddle is going to transfer into the NFL. We've seen Jerry Jeudy look really good. We've seen Henry Ruggs look really bad. So his talent projects more like Tyreek Hill. Like you said, the explosive talent, the explosive playmaking ability. He is more versatile than Ruggs, which is definitely a much better route runner, a much more polished receiver. So he should have a lot more success early on. And he played with Tua. So it's going to be another reuniting quarterback-receiver duo that's going to be tied together for their entire careers. I like the pick. I think he's going to go top 5 in most leagues too. Chris?
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I am hoping he goes top 6 personally, because he is honestly one of the players that I'm targeting there. That pick 6 in one of the leagues that we have together. He's dynamic, and also, like you said, he's with Tua as well. When you can walk into the league, already a very talented player, but young, but you have that established connection already. That puts you leaps and bounds ahead of so many other different positions there. The Dolphins need help in the receiver room. They have some good solid players there. Parker is good. Preston Williams is okay. Throwing Waddle in the mix there, I think he's going to just take the top off. It's going to bring up his value is already boosted, and also it is going to boost Tua's value as well.
Yeah, I could see him easily being a wide receiver 2 going into the league. Like starting out this season, he might be that talented. We'll find out more as preseason comes around. But
yeah, and I think he shot up a lot of draft boards because he was drafted as high as he was. Had he landed in a spot potentially like the Giants, which the Giants obviously they were looking receiver, they went another direction, they traded down. But had he ended up somewhere like there. Or even the Cardinals, I don't know that I still would have liked what his talent provides, but given that where he landed, I don't know if I would have liked it as much as the Miami landing because, like Chris mentioned, you do have Devontae Parker there. They did sign Will Fuller, so now you've got guys who go down and make the burner catches, and then you got Devontae Parker making the contested catches. You bring in Waddle, Gesicki opens it up in the middle of the field. I really like what he's going to have to offer, and once they see that he can start to hit these big plays, I think they're going to start to utilize him more and more.
yeah, definitely a good pick there. 6th pick goes to Danny, and the computer decided to go Devonta Smith, which makes perfect sense here. Thomas, I know you have some strong feelings. We've already had some words. I have some strong feelings for sure. So I guess we'll have to have our words out right now. Why is he not the Offensive Rookie of the Year next year?
It's not. It's not even strong words, but oh goodness, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. That's the short answer. If that's what you're looking for, that's the short answer. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay. Yeah. Last year, all the hype and all the rave was around Jalen Reagor, going around this high, going around that 1.6, 1.7, 1.8. That was kind of his area, and some analysts even had more hype and praise on him. And he came into the league and he absolutely stunk it up. Okay, and don't get me wrong, he had QB issues, but he absolutely stunk it up. Okay,
he missed like 6 games.
He stunk it up. Okay, you bring in this talent like Devonta Smith with a quarterback who now hopefully they love, because at first they didn't love him and they were talking about maybe even drafting another quarterback and doing something away with Jalen Hurts. So you hope that this works out, but I saw this stat, and I don't know off the top of my head exactly what it is, but the the Philadelphia Eagles have so much first-round draft capital tied up in wide receivers, I think, over the last 25 years. And how many of those guys are still around or actually made an impact? They actually had to bring guys in that made these impacts. Deshaun Jackson, I think, was their only homegrown. And so Devonta Smith, I love what he brings to the table. I hope he gets peppered with targets, but I don't see him being Offensive Rookie of the Year. But I don't hate him at 1.6 either, though.
Yeah, see, and that's my point. Look, I was giving him maybe a little bit of a reach, offensive rookie of the year. There are a lot of good, talented rookies, but he has potential to be. He is the number one receiver in Philadelphia, and he will be. He's playing with his college quarterback of a few years ago, who loves him as well. They had a good chemistry. They play together. They worked out. I mean, it's the third QB receiver duo that's going to be tied together for their entire careers, which is ridiculous.
You hope so, unless they trade Jalen Hurts or destroy Jalen Hurts' confidence or whatever it may be. But
we're talking about a team that has a lot of openings for some talent, and this is one of the most talented kids in the draft who is going to be the key to the offense now. So now it's a lot of young talent around a young talent. So I just see, I mean, it's a pretty good landing spot. You got to admit, at least, even though the Eagles receivers haven't done too much homegrown wise, this kid can play. Devontae Smith's a great receiver. You saw in the title game what he did. Just what he did at Ohio State was just ridiculous. He shot up everybody's board. He won the Heisman that night. I mean, it's just I really think he could be Rookie of the Year, and I'm obviously as an Eagles fan very thrilled. So I definitely like that pick. Chris?
I think the thing that worries me about that is, we talk about the historic use of the Eagles and the receivers and just how they just don't perform. But also one of the things we don't necessarily talk about all the time is how they get hurt fairly often. With Smith's frame and size and weight, I mean, that's just asking to get hurt. If he had great strength coaches, receiver coaches, medical staff, I don't know what it is that they aren't quite doing right there where the receivers keep getting hurt over and over. But just because of his size, he's already kind of asking for a little bit. I know he's sneaky, he's elusive, he's fast. I think he really performed well. I think he performed better on other teams versus the Eagles. I think he still will put up points, but I just worry about his longevity.
I just think he comes into the league as a wide receiver 2 right away. He's going to get all the targets in Philadelphia. So target shares is going to be there. He'll be on the field every single snap. There's no way they bench him. So
to Smalls' point, that's going to be more opportunity for either him to be taking hits, roll an ankle, separate a shoulder, whatever it may be. That's just, that's going to come along with the territory too.
Absolutely, injuries happen though. You can't draft based on injuries. You draft based on talent. So based on talent and
but recovery is based on the team though. A lot of times, like the Bengals for the longest time had terrible medical staff, so that's why you keep seeing some of these players get hurt and then try and come back and then go out the rest of the season. Yeah. Or they get hurt and it's something where it's week to week and they're just out the rest of the year. And I think that's the same thing with the Eagles as well. So if he does get hurt and he doesn't get treated correctly or right away or in the right form, then that hurts him a lot.
Well, it hurts anybody who gets hurt. We still
do like him at 1.6 though. Yeah. I think is what we are all trying to say.
Yeah, no, he's
1.6. Maybe that's kind of his peak. But anything after this obviously is going to be good value. But yeah, I think 6 is right around where it'd be.
I would say these 6 are probably locked in as the top 6 in almost any draft. I don't think there's anybody else hopping in on these, but we'll see as time goes on. Right now, I think these 6 are pretty much these 6 most talented and best landing spots in the draft, personally. But Chris, you proved me wrong. Tell me at 7 who you would take here and why they might jump into that top 6 too.
Javonte Williams.
Really?
Yeah, so I think he was a pretty decent landing spot. Melvin Gordon's out next year. He is getting older. I think they are trying to find someone to go in and kind of take over his position. He doesn't have very many miles on him, because he was part of that great dynamic running duo with North Carolina. So that helps a lot. He's also smart. I've heard from so many different teams where they say he was one of the smartest prospects they talked to the entire time. He was actually the valedictorian of his high school. He has proven over and over that he's intelligent and he also has some good measurables. He's not super fast. I think it was 4.55 or something like that, 40.
Yeah.
So he's not trucking necessarily, but very talented. Also, I can't remember the exact stat of what it was. But he has some of the best balance after contact.
Yeah.
So he will hit, get hit or make a hit, but then keep going more often than anyone else. And also, I would honestly put him at 6 personally.
You draft him over Devonta Smith.
I would. I think because it's a little more of a long term. I think Devonta Smith will perform a little bit better this upcoming season, but I think past that, especially once Melvin Gordon is out of town. then I think Williams takes over.
Well, and I think
Also with a little bit of that positional scarcity as well.
this position-wise, I can see that. I actually have, yeah, we'll see. I can see that. Talent-wise, I like his talent, and I think it's a good landing spot. The only downside is you just don't know when he's going to get in on the field. With Melvin Gordon there, Melvin Gordon's still a solid running back, and the Broncos have money invested in him. He's not going to sit. He does get hurt a lot, but I wouldn't. That's it's just a tough position for such a talented running back to land at. I was not the biggest fan of some of these running back landing spots, but that's me.
I mean, I like it. I do like the pick. Obviously, where he's picking at, I can see the argument for being over Devontae Smith at the 6th pick, but for all this reasons that Chris is mentioning, Melvin Gordon, if we haven't noticed, his career theme has been timeshare, right? You had Austin Eckler while he was in San Diego. Last year he was here with Philip Lindsay, Devontae Booker. They even gave him some carries. So he's never been true bell cow, but has shown to be an efficient fantasy running back. And that trend is going to continue. He's going to be in another timeshare here with Javonte Williams. But I see Javonte Williams absolutely running away with the job here. I've mentioned this before on podcasts. He reminds me of Nick Chubb light, but I think as he grows into his body even more and becomes more familiar with the NFL game, he's going to be very similar to Nick Chubb. Everything I've seen on film, he likes to make contact, and when you can actually wrap him up and take him down, he's already gone 20 yards at least, because he does break the arm tackles in the hole, but as soon as he gets that secondary, he does make the movements with his hips and his feet to make those secondary guys miss. And so I do love the position that he's in. The Broncos do like to run the ball, as we have seen with Lindsey and Gordon both being fantasy RB1s and RB2s there. So with the talent he brings, I'm excited to see what the future holds.
All about fantasy RB1s and RB2s. Both running backs finished outside the top 20. That's not an RB1, RB2. That's basically a timeshare.
Well, I mean,
you can never.
If you're talking, it depends on where, I guess. But
you can't. Yeah. Would you start Melvin Gordon because you never knew if Philip Lindsay was going to be the one that week, or you didn't start? It's just like the Patriots situation. I don't like those timeshare situations. You don't know when Williams is going to get on the field. You do know he is the running back of the future in Denver, and I will give you that. So I think that's a good pick on that side of it. He'll probably be on the field sooner than later, but
yep, exactly. He's gonna be in the field sooner than later, because if you saw the draft, they traded up to get their man. So they're enamored with his talent, and I think he's going to get opportunity to succeed a lot sooner than we expect.
Yeah, still a good pick. I mean, he's going to go top. He'll be up there. I wouldn't take him over Devontae Smith, though, but all right. I'll give you that. I have a running back ranked over him, who's I'm going to take right here. I'm going to take Michael Carter. I like the landing spot better. That's just all that comes down to. I think the talent's more on Javonte Williams' side. I think Williams is one of the best running backs in the draft. I don't like the landing spot as much as I love Carter's, who's going to a Jets team that needs a running back. He'll have a chance to be the starter day one, and he was part of that running back duo where he did save a lot of wear and tear, if you want to go with that, on his legs too. I just like his position on the Jets better. I think the Jets need him to step in right away, and I like that. I like him here, at least at 8. Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would rank him over Javonte Williams. I think even this might be a little high for him, just because I don't know if we're just all forgetting about, like, Michael Pirine does have some value there, and I mean, he's also a young running back, so I don't know that this guy's going to get all the touches coming into the league. I think he's going to obviously prove what he can do come training camp, come the preseason. We want to be able to put a lot of plays on tape, a lot of snaps on tape, just to see what you can bring to the NFL level. Right here, I think I'm still looking at the wide receivers and possibly at other running backs, but he does have obviously what the organization has now done to this offense as far as another facelift. He has all of that behind him, but I think it's not going to be as easy as we might think for those touches to come.
I will say I wasn't pre-draft. I had him as my 6th ranked running back. I wasn't as big a fan of him. I just know going into the draft, I heard a lot of buzz around him moving up draft boards, and then seeing the Jets take him in the 4th round, I think the landing spot's perfect. I really could see this kid coming out and running away with it. Granted, I don't like his talent as much. I didn't think a lot of these running backs were that great in this draft, so we're going to have to wait and see training camp, preseason, etc., like you mentioned. But I still like the landing spot a lot. And coming out of the draft, I'm a really big fan of him. He moved up a lot, obviously, on my board. Chris, what do you think?
The Jets did have a really good draft this year. Not one of the tops, and I think top is probably the Browns. But the Jets they did a good job with what they had. Typically they just weren't filling position of need, but this year they did. They filled out what they needed, and it's always kind of nice. It might be a little bit shaky at first, say the first 6 games, but when you compare, say, a young quarterback and receiver, running back all together, getting a solid O-line in there, they already have a pretty decent offensive line. It's nice to see them all grow together, and you can see that chemistry start growing, and then once they can actually play well as a team and stick together as that young core, then they can actually start building around them. So when you have most of your great players on the lower contract, then they can bring in those more expensive vets to fill in some of those other spots. And so a lot of times those are the teams that we see go further into the playoffs, or that are better teams overall because they can actually manage their cap better, because they have those young guys on the rookie contracts. So I think this might be one of those times where they have the young skill players for cheap, and they can fill around them, and I think it'll benefit them all.
Yeah, I mean, look, I just, like I said, for him, even though he's going into a pretty lousy team, it doesn't. He's going to get the touches. I just see him coming out as a high-end running back 3 right away, a possible running back 2 moving on into the season, and getting that kind of value out of a position. That's hard to find in this draft, especially after these guys. I'm not really feeling too many of the other running backs. We'll see as they go, but yeah, I just like him right here. I think
it's also kind of crazy too. Him and Javonte, well, they put 738 yards up against Miami, which is insane. Like if either one of them can pull anything like that out in the NFL, I mean that's insane.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. They both landed in pretty decent spots, so they are for sure going to be going first round. Looks like I'd bet these 4 running backs go first round. Thomas, you got the next pick.
Yeah. I think this is when I start to shake some things up here. As you boys can see, I took Trey Sermon. I had been gushing about Trey Sermon even before the draft.
Yeah.
But he landed in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan's running attack. Are you kidding me? I love the kid even more. San Francisco's running attack with Kyle Shanahan as its head coach has made fantasy relevant running backs out of Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, Matt Breida, just to name a few, and I don't think that they're nearly as talented as Trey Sermon. So you bring a kid that I believe is going to be pro-ready. He played in Oklahoma, he played in Ohio State, and he doesn't have that breakaway speed, but none of those guys do in that offense. It's just all about finding the holes. He's one cut, he's going to make his move, and he's going to eat up a lot of yards, and he's going to get those goal line touches. So I absolutely love where he landed, and I'd love to have him here at the back end of the first.
Yeah, I mean, look, Trey Sermon was. I think he was 7th on my board going into the draft, but he was same. Just like a lot of these running backs, a lot of them are valued differently depending on who you talk to. You love Trey Sermon, you did, and he did land in an ideal spot. You're right, the Niners do make fantasy relevant, or make running backs fantasy relevant who aren't very talented. But the problem I have with the Niners is that they're just not. You never know. They're like a Patriots situation again. You never know which running back is going to be week to week. You can't rely on any of them to start. Granted, they traded up for Trey Sermon, so obviously they want him, and they're bringing him in at a pretty high draft slot. So
it goes back to the draft capital, baby. Listen, they appreciate what you've done for us, Mr. Mostert, and they paid him. I believe they paid Tevin Coleman. That hasn't been a good ROI there. They bring in guys like Jeff Wilson, or kind of utility do-it-all guys, and then he rips off 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. So they traded up, like you mentioned, to get Trey Sermon, and so I think you're going to see a lot of Trey Sermon come Sunday afternoon and evening.
Yeah, Chris.
I come from the same point as you, Adam. I just worry, he's going to blow it up a couple weeks, and then all of a sudden, maybe he's going to lose that hot hand, and then all of a sudden they're going to go through one of their other 7 running backs that they have on the roster. When you look at his in-a-season stats, I think they're going to be really, really good. You look at it and say, oh, look at that. Okay, so say he was running back 14, something along those lines. But I think it's all going to be
That's RB1, baby.
But it's all going to be in a handful of games.
Yeah.
He's going to have a few games where he has 4 points, 2 points, and then 38 points.
Yeah,
something like
are we
that.
talking about this year's J.K. Dobbins? I mean, this guy's going to go pretty high on some draft boards. I'm sure he might be another one of these examples of a guy you're waiting to break out at some point. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Well, I like Trey Sermon. I like this.
Hey, you do have some consistency at some of the running backs, but I mean, over the last several years, running back has kind of turned a little volatile because we don't have true bell cows anymore. And so, yeah, you do have those weeks where maybe they had 4 or 5 points, and you still get that with your first round running backs now, where they do kind of have those stinkers. But if you're telling me his upside is 38 points or more, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
But what game is it though?
I mean, that goes for any
part.
running backs, but he's coming into the league. They drafted him early. I don't think they're going to keep guys like Jeff Wilson around. And like I said, thank you for what you've done, Raheem Mostert. But we have this shiny new toy that we're going to go ahead and play with. So we'll go ahead and show him the door as well.
Yeah, the trade up definitely bodes well for Trey Sermon. Next pick for the computer Danny slot here. They went Rondell Moore for Arizona, the receiver. Interesting. I like that pick. It's a good spot for him. I mean, I don't know about this high, but it's interesting. Thomas, what do you think?
I mean, you hope it's a good spot for him. That wide receiver room is awfully crowded now. I know they just brought in A.J. Green, who is aging, is on his way out of the league. But they still have Andy Isabella there. They still have Christian Kirk there. D-Hop is going to eat up a lot of targets still. So how many touches is he going to get? What is his target share going to look like? He's going to bring great ability to that wide receiver room, and I think he has what it takes to beat out the guys like Andy Isabella and even Christian Kirk, and obviously AJ Green once he does move along. But I guess this is one of those long-term plays, and he's going to be the guy there longer than anybody else. But like we mentioned with the picks before, how long until we really start to see that production?
Yeah. I mean, we usually don't see production like Justin Jefferson anyway out of rookies. That was a really rare scenario. So this guy coming into the league is probably going to come in. He'll definitely get work out of the slot. He's now tied to Kyler. A.J. Green's on a 1-year deal. He's not going to be around in the future. So they're addressing some needs. But you're right. I agree with the fact that room is that crowded. Scares me just a bit, but he will be the guy. There's a reason they drafted him as high as they did. And he will be the guy moving forward that he's going to have a great career with Kyler Murray. So, another young quarterback with a young receiver to throw to. And talent-wise, boy, this kid can do it all. So, he's electric. I like it. It's not a bad spot for him here at 10. Chris?
Yep.
Landing spot push him down for me, myself. Like Thomas said, it is a very crowded room. And also, I mean, we've seen so many rookies, we're talking about. I'm like, Andy Isabella was definitely not as talented as him. But he was talked up. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, he's going to be the next one. Or Christian Kirk was like, oh, no, this is going to be his year. He's going to come in and he's going to take all these touches. But then it doesn't happen. And then also, I mean, Kyler doesn't have to throw it all the time. You see so many times where he makes his reads and then he just runs for the first down. Yeah. So I think that hurts that hurts the receivers, at least everyone besides Hopkins on that team as well.
Hopkins. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it does. It hurts his spot. He didn't land in the most ideal spot. It was actually a strange pick for me, for considering how high he went. I thought the Cardinals, they clearly have a lot of other needs than receiver, but that also must tell you either how high they are on this kid or how low they are on some of the other receivers, namely Christian Kirk and Andy Isabella, who, if you own them right now, you might want to start wondering what you're going to do with them. Yeah, they're cut bait. We'll see. But yeah, interesting pick there. It makes sense. He's gonna go around there in most drafts. Chris, who do you have at 11?
So I'm actually gonna go Elijah Moore here.
Nice.
Yeah. Maybe you're just subconscious of editing these things and hearing just Thomas talk about them all the time. But I mean, that landing spot is good. Again, he's coming in with that young quarterback. They're going to really gel and get together very well. Super talented guy, quick. He can, he can make those catches. I think he's solid, especially sitting there at, what is that, pick 11 of the draft?
Yeah. No, I love that pick. Thomas, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I love that pick.
Yeah.
That would have been my next pick had it made it down to that early second round area, which is kind of where he was being mocked before the NFL draft. At least that's where I had him. I had him early in that second round, late in this first, and now, he's solidified there at the end of the first round if I can get him, or even at that 8, 9, 10 turnaround. If I can get Elijah Moore there, they're gonna find every way they can to get him the ball. He's one of those guys, aside from Jalen Waddle, who does have that Tyreek Hill that form, and it's hard to keep comparing people to Tyreek Hill, but with how electric he is on the field, a couple of these guys, they really flashed that and really showed that, and he's one of those guys. So I think on the sweeps, the jet sweeps, the wide receiver screens, anything over the middle, keep your eyes open because he could be gone.
Yeah, it's a team star for talent too. They did just bring Corey Davis, so it takes the pressure off him on the outside. Denzel Mims opposite him, so he's going to be able to work the slot. He'll have the middle of the field open, and a new young quarterback, again, young receiver, young quarterback combo that's going to be tied together for their careers. So, jeez.
And with the opportunities they give him rushing the ball too, that was kind of the other thing I was thinking with the Michael Carter thing is maybe he doesn't get as many touches as you might think immediately because they've got a couple of new toys here on the offense. The Jets did have a really, really good draft. They got their quarterback, they got their running back, they got their wide receiver, they got their linemen, they got defense. They really addressed a lot of things. So what that shows me is that this new upper management, this new staff there is really dedicated to making this team better and winning some games here.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good spot. I like the pick, Chris. And if he's, as you mentioned, if he's there at 11, absolutely, this is the guy you take.
Yeah. Yep.
12th pick, I'm going to go a guy who I actually thought you might have taken earlier, but Rashad Bateman. Look, he was high on I think I had him as a fourth ranked receiver going into the draft. I love his talent. The landing spot is the only issue with this pick. No one loves anyone on the Ravens, any receivers. Lamar Jackson just doesn't throw to them enough, but he's going to be the clear-cut guy in Baltimore, and he's going to get targets from Lamar Jackson. Just we don't know how many, and that's the only thing that worries me about this kid because the talent's there. He's going to make plays. He's a good wide receiver one on that team. Fantasy wise, I could see him. He might not even be more than wide receiver 3 going into the year. So I'm worried about that. But talent and position wise, he's kind of a lock for that. He's going to be the wide receiver one in Baltimore for his career, I think. Thomas.
Yeah, maybe I'm a little higher on him than you guys. I do like him here at the end of the first round. I do like his landing spot. Who's to say that Lamar Jackson can't pass the ball well because they haven't tried? You know what I mean? They don't have guys that are great wide receivers. Willie Snead is not it. Tyrell Williams is not it. I know they drafted Devin Duvernay. He's more of a return specialist and hasn't really rounded into a wide receiver. Rashad Bateman brings that wide receiver one mold onto this team with a good complementary like Marquis Brown. Who's to say that they don't let him rip it more with Mark Andrews covering the middle and then these two guys on the outside that he's going to absolutely love. So I do like the spot where he landed, and I do like Rashad Bateman enough to take him right around the end of the first at the 112 or even the 2-1.
Yeah, just as we mentioned earlier when you were talking about receivers in Philadelphia, receivers in Baltimore, it's also a stigma. And there's a thing that's been going around since Lamar Jackson's been there, even before Lamar Jackson with Joe Flacco. Not a lot of fantasy production out of receivers in Baltimore. Chris, how do you feel?
We got excited about Marquise Brown though for a little bit.
He hasn't done it
for a little bit.
Chris, what
yeah, I'm in the same boat there. I was kind of toying with him above Elijah Moore for a second,
right.
In that 111, but I don't know, talent-wise, I think Moore edges out a little bit. Bateman is very talented, but also our landing spot is the one that solidified it there, where he is going to be the wide receiver one on Baltimore. He should hopefully lead the team in yards and targets, but if there's not enough to go around, then it doesn't matter as much for fantasy production.
Yeah. That's the big worry. So, I mean, and all these guys, a lot of this landing spots, as we were talking about before the draft, it just depends on where these guys fall, and a lot of them land in some questionable places. It's going to be interesting moving forward to see how they produce on their teams. Thomas, you are up, second round now. We are on to the second round, first pick. Who are you taking?
I'm gonna go Trevor Lawrence. Listen, if this quarterback is as talented as everyone says he is, he shouldn't be falling out of the first round in dynasty drafts. But we might see it. You might see it. Obviously, he's super flex. He's typically the 1-1. I know we mentioned Naji Harris sometimes being that 1-1, but Trevor Lawrence is going to come in. Obviously, he's going to take the reins of this new Jacksonville Jaguars team, and we're going to see what he can do here in the NFL. You know, obviously he proved to be very successful in college, did have great statistics, and so he brings rushing ability and upside to his portfolio. So I think he's one of those guys that if I'm getting him at the start of the second round, I absolutely love it. But anywhere I think between that 8 and 12 at the end of the first round is still a good pick for him, because if you're in need of a quarterback, he could be your answer for the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, I see him going in the first round too. Getting him at the first pick of the second round is pretty great. He's compared to John Elway and Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning and whatever.
Combined, come on, if that's what it is, then he should be going way higher than this. But I understand it in one quarterback league, 12-team league, where some of these guys probably still have a very solid quarterback. But to get this talent and start a second round, I would absolutely love it.
Yeah. And I think Superflex, as we mentioned earlier, he's been 1-1 for the last 4 years, waiting for him to come out of college. So, yeah, this guy's locked in as the best quarterback in this draft. And if you're getting a quarterback, he's going to be the first one off the board. So, yeah, 2-1. I like that pick. Second pick of the second round, we got the computer taking for Danny, Pat Freiermuth, the tight end for the Steelers. That's interesting. Second pick of the second round, huh? Chris, how do you feel about that?
I think it's a little bit high. He's one of those. He is one of the more typical tight ends. If we didn't have generational talent at tight end here, Freiermuth could be in talks as the number one tight end. But as it is, it's not even close. Going to the Steelers, we can competing with looks like Eric Ebron right now. So I think it's a toss up there. I don't know if you can definitively say that he's a better talent than Ebron. Even Ebron isn't even very good. So it'll be interesting to see. I think maybe more they're just kind of picking from the scarcity of the position. But I personally don't like it.
Yeah. Thomas?
So listen, I'll be the first to admit that we wrote off tight ends like there was no talent there.
Yeah.
Pat Freiermuth falling in Pittsburgh, I absolutely love. I mean, going back on second take and seeing some of this guy's tape, and seeing a lot of what people had to write and say about him, he's like a baby Gronk.
Yeah.
And he's got nimble feet. He's got great hands. He's fast. He's not afraid of contact. I like it here. I kind of have him grading out early second round at 2.2. I don't hate it. Maybe a little lower than this at 2.5, 2.6, but he's going to get a lot of targets there. I don't think Eric Ebron's it. They were bringing Ebron in looking for it. But to draft Freiermuth and looking at what he does bring to this team, I do like it. And I think he's going to maybe not make an immediate impact as far as fantasy goes, but as far as the NFL goes, have an immediate impact. But like most tight ends, it's going to take some time. But I do like the pick and what he offers at the tight end position.
Yeah, look, this is the ideal landing spot for him. I love the landing spot. Pittsburgh likes to use their tight ends. Ben Roethlisberger throws to them. I mean, Roethlisberger is realistically around for 1 or 2 more seasons, so this isn't really a long-term projection for him. So that quarterback situation is going to be interesting moving forward. I think it is a little high of a reach at this number 2 in the second round. If you need a tight end, though, he is that talented. Penn State, I'm a Penn State fan. They're tight end university. I mean, Gesicki was the one who came out before, and before that was Hunter Henry. We're talking about tight ends who are consistently big, who go up and catch the ball. Freiermuth can do that. He has the potential to be a legitimate tight end fantasy-wise. It's going to be a few years. You know how tight ends work in general anyway. So
maybe
he's in that same mold. I feel like he's not going to come out and just take the league by storm. He needs to work on his blocking. Pittsburgh's going to ask him to do a lot of different learn a lot of different things, but he can be that good. So maybe his position scarcity. That's why the draft is here at this high in the second round. But
Yeah, I mean that's another reason why I do like him a little earlier in that second round, in that mid-second round, is that they're keeping him in the state. You know, they like what he offers. They like what he's about. He's from Pennsylvania there, you know, and so to keep him in state, they know he's a hard worker. It's a blue collar football team. It's a blue collar town, and so they know what they're getting in this tight end, and I'm excited to see what he does offer as far as fantasy goes.
yeah,
I think he also is one of those candidates, though, if he doesn't perform very well that first year, the person that spent 2-3 on him, or no, 2-2 on him, they'll be willing to take peanuts in that trade. You know, if he doesn't do anything for the first year and a half, then you can, you know, give him a third rounder for it, and then don't have to pay way less, and then get the same talent at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Definitely interesting. I'm curious where he goes. I knew we were talking about the tight ends going into the draft. We basically said it's a 2 tight end race anyway. So if you're looking for a tight end, and it almost holds true still, but he's going to be the other guy that you're trying to get off the board. So I think it's a bit of a reach. I have him ranked at 23rd on my draft board, but it's still I can see him going this early as well. So it fits. It fits. Third pick, second round, Chris. What do you got?
All right, so I'm going Amon-Ra St. Brown.
There you go. I would if he'd fallen to me, I would have taken him next. I love this kid. What do you think about him?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, so first off, so he's basically competing with Brashad Perriman and Tyrell Williams. And then Quintus Cephas is the young guy that he's been working with. So, I mean, Williams and Perriman, they're okay. You know, they're kind of journeyman receivers. They move around. They're quick. They'll get down the field. They're not necessarily sturdy. You know, they do get hurt a decent amount. And then they aren't, at least Perriman seems to have issues catching sometimes. So Amon-Ra seems like he'll really come in and fill that spot. And also, I mean, Goff can support decent receivers, and I think Amon-Ra is going to be one of them.
Yeah, I love this kid. As I mentioned, I can't believe he fell as far as he did in the NFL draft, which is probably the one thing that worries me going into his season in Detroit. But the landing spot, we were talking about, whoever goes at receiver in Detroit is going to be the number one guy, and he was number 6 on my board going into the draft. So I think everything lined up for him. Just curious about that 4th round tag. Thomas, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it just, again, because wide receiver was deep, and maybe these teams were just kind of, it was a preferential thing. They just liked what these other guys had to offer. But St. Brown's going to get a lot of targets here. Like Chris mentioned, Jared Goff can support fantasy wide receivers, and they address the offensive line with getting Penei Sewell. And so this team they're looking to definitely, again, revamp things, be more aggressive, it sounds like, with this new coaching staff. And so I do like what he offers as far as fantasy goes. I think he's sure-handed, so he should get those targets. And as PPR goes, you know, we love to just see our wide receiver 1s or wide receiver 2s peppered with targets.
Yeah, I mean, can we talk about the Lions for a second? All of a sudden, are we talking about the Lions with Jared Goff at the helm, when they have DeAndre Swift in the backfield and T.J. Hawkinson at tight end, and now Amon-Ra St. Brown coming in? Is this a young up-and-coming team we might keep our eyes on?
We'll see.
If the organization can't taint it and, you know, ruin it somehow, just because they seem like they always do, it's the players on the team have a lot of promise.
Yeah, I mean, I just like and the trade with the Stafford trade brings them more first rounders coming in next year too. You might want to keep your eyes on the Lions. They now have solidified their franchise left tackle, and they've got young talent on offense. There might be some fantasy relevant players there that are sneaking in. Might be climbing some board.
We'll see. It's still Detroit.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll see.
I might be getting a little overexcited. We'll see.
It looks good on paper. Don't get me wrong. It looks good on paper, but we'll see.
Okay. All right. 4th pick, 2nd round. Ooh, where's my guy? Looks like I'm going far down this board to find the guy.
Uh-oh.
There he is. Bam. 4th
Amari
pick,
Rodgers, huh?
2nd round. I'm taking Amari Rodgers. And let me tell you why. I mean, I don't really have to tell you why. If the Packers Packers needed somebody to run out of the slot for Aaron Rodgers. This is the only reason Aaron Rodgers might stay in Green Bay. The only reason this pick even comes in this high is if Aaron Rodgers is in Green Bay. But now we have someone opposite Davante Adams who is an electric receiver in the slot who can make plays. They haven't had a receiver that can get open, not named Davante Adams, ever in Aaron Rodgers' tenure, basically. So it's just, I like the fit. I like the talent going into the position. And once again, I'm taking this pick just based on landing spot. Sometimes you have to look at landing spot. I wanted to know who the Packers would take a receiver, and I think Amari Rodgers might be a breakout candidate. I might be reaching a bit, but I like him a lot. Thomas.
Yeah, you're reaching maybe a little. But I will say I was very high on any receiver that did land in Green Bay, as I had talked about on the Ideal podcast with Elijah Moore. Had Elijah Moore gone there, I had Elijah Moore as my number 3 wide receiver coming off the board. I still kind of had him in that area, but I wasn't quite as high had he landed in Green Bay. Amari Rodgers does offer a lot of the same skill set, but he's going to... I don't know that he's going to come in and succeed right away. I mean, you do have Valdez-Scantling there. I believe, I can't think of the other wide receiver's name. St. Brown, Equinemius St. Brown. They have Equinemius St. Brown there. So, I mean, you do have some guys that you have to compete with. He's going to have to come in and show that he can get it done at the pro level, come training camp, come preseason, as with a lot of these prospects. But I think maybe it's a little bit of a reach, although, like I said, I do like the fit. And if Aaron Rodgers stays in town, then I'll stand by your pick. But if he gets shipped out of town, you got to be a little concerned having him this early in the second round.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely depends on Aaron Rodgers. I will not draft him at all, potentially, if Aaron Rodgers is not in Green Bay. So yeah. This is a huge Aaron Rodgers being in Green Bay pick. Right?
Sure.
Chris, what do you think about him?
I mean, I think one thing you could look at, though, is if Aaron Rodgers is out of town, but say Carr comes into town, then it'll still have value there. You know, if it's Locke or Love playing in their place, then no. Then it's not worth it at all. Also, one unethical thing you could possibly do is sneak him into a trade and see if someone thinks it's the wrong A. Rodgers.
Ooh.
Not saying it's a good thing to do, but it's a very
nice.
Possible thing to do. So you can make that pick and then get a couple first back for it. I don't know.
I never thought about that for the sneaky.
We're an ethical podcast here, guys. Come on.
I'm just saying
We're
it's not something you should
here.
do, but it's a
Come
possibility.
on,
So watch out if someone offers you an A. Rodgers. Make sure it's the right one.
That sounds like a Skinner drunk at 3 a.m. That's exactly the thing I'd be like, oh yeah, Aaron Rodgers, cheap. Oh man! All right, Thomas, you're up next. 5th pick, 2nd round. Who you
got? Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go with the big man here, Terrace Marshall.
Yeah.
I do like his landing spot. Robbie Anderson, I believe, is only in town, I think, through this year. You've got DJ Moore there. They did lose Curtis Samuel. So there's going to be some targets that'll be available, and he's shown that he can get it done against these all-pro corners. All-pro corners coming out of college that are getting drafted in the top 10. He's shown that he can get it done against those guys. So I'm excited to see what he offers here for Sam Darnold. Obviously, I think it's going to come down to how well Sam Darnold plays. But just given his talent and given what he offers, he could come in and certainly offer some flex wide receiver 3 value right off the bat.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things to say that Thomas said as well. There has been some supposed character issues with him. I don't know if Carolina's necessarily the best place to fix that up. They don't necessarily seem to have issues a lot of time, but you never hear a whole lot of uplifting, like really strong locker room stories from them. Talent-wise, though, I think he absolutely will fit in there. It might take him a little bit to get there, but I think he will soon enough. Him and DJ Moore will be the guys once they get that strong, solid QB play.
And one other thing to mention, one smaller thing to mention, it's another one of those reunitings, if you will. Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator for LSU, during that championship run was there, so he knows what Joe Brady's system is about, and I think he can come in. Like I said, it's all going to come down to how Sam Darnold plays.
Yeah, of course. It all starts and ends with Sam Darnold, but it also starts and ends with that receiver room. It's really crowded now, and as you mentioned, Curtis Samuel's gone, which helps, but it's hard to trust any of those receivers anyway in Carolina when you have Christian McCaffrey getting all the touchdowns. You're also going to watch this kid come in with DJ Moore, who is a top prospect and has been for years on some people's minds, not mine personally. But Robbie Anderson, you mentioned maybe only 1 year there still, but he had one of the biggest years in fantasy last year. He was a top 20 fantasy receiver. If he does that again this year, do they get rid of him?
That was with Teddy Bridgewater under center as well. So things are changing a little bit. I think that Sam Darnold just offers different things that the Bridgewater did.
Yeah, but I don't know about better. Different. I'm still not sure better. And here's the issue for me is I love the kid. I had him really high on my board. I hate the spot. I think he landed in the worst spot of almost any receiver. I really do not like him in Carolina, but they must know something. Once again, these teams know things we don't. They always seem to. It's funny because every year I'm like, they must know something I don't. And then the year plays out exactly as I thought. And I go, oh, they didn't. Clearly I did. So I guess maybe
Just start sending out those GM applications, Adam. What are you doing?
I tried for the Eagles job. Apparently they like Howie Roseman better, and they seem to be, I thought that job would be available, but I guess I'll just grab it next year after they muck it up somehow again. All right, anyway, moving on, 6th pick, 2nd round, auto-drafted, Tylen Wallace for Baltimore here. Second Baltimore receiver going off the board. Danny's auto-draft. Interesting choices. Tylen Wallace, you mentioned Thomas earlier about him landing in Baltimore when I took Rashad Bateman. Well, what do you think about him landing in this here in the middle of the 2nd round?
Middle of the 2nd round I think is a little early on him. He doesn't necessarily bring the same type of polished wide receiver that Bateman does. And so to say he's even going to get as many looks this first year is really going to be telling on what his future is going to hold. Because if he's getting between 50 and 60 targets, I don't know how much fantasy value that's going to hold if he's not being effective with it.
Yeah, we talked about draft capital a lot. He's the 2nd receiver in their draft. And he's going up against 2 first-round picks. We're talking Bateman and Hollywood Brown. Oh, well, wait, Bateman was 2nd round, wasn't he? No,
Yeah.
But either way, we're talking about 2 high draft picks. Those guys are going to be on the field more. I don't see Wallace seeing the field all that often in the first, maybe even 2 seasons. So I'm not really sure about this pick in the middle of the 2nd round.
Scratch that. Bateman was a first-rounder.
Yeah, so we got 2 first-round receivers outside of you. Brown still needs time to develop. I don't think Tylen Wallace is going to be anything anytime soon. I have him a lot further down my board, but
yeah, agreed.
I guess not horribly further down, but
it's a reach. It's a reach by the CPU.
Yeah, twice now. Chris, what do you think about it?
To be honest, I don't know a whole lot about the player. I didn't really have him on my radar much, so I didn't dig into him too far. But like you said, though, that the Baltimore room is crowded. And not known for producing receivers. So for that reason alone, I wouldn't be into him at that high.
Chris, we talked about him constantly on all these podcasts, and
I can only pay attention to you guys so much. Eventually, y'all just turn into white noise.
This is a middling team scenario here, Chris. This is how you got to get over the hump. You got to know all these guys.
I'm busy with other things, Adam.
Yeah.
Like I said, you're all the white noise sometimes.
I'm the white noise all the time. I understand.
Also, I'm not an analyst or a host or something. I'm the producer here.
Very true.
I'm more behind the scenes. I'm not one of those talky type people.
Well, talky. Guess what? It's your pick, and you're the 7th pick of the 2nd round. So now you're gonna have to give us some expert analysis on why you take who you take here.
Yep. So I'm taking Justin Fields. Chicago has been hungry for a quarterback for a very, very long time. Whether they can produce and actually, help him grow is a good question. But I think he's very talented. I think he's one of those where he can actually get you a lot of those fantasy points, passing and running. He has a decent team around him. And then also, he has Andy Dalton to help mentor him. So, at least, he has that vet sitting around there to kind of help him walk through some things. He's going to start maybe the first couple games, they said. And then Fields is going to come in and just take over. So it's one of those things, he's not going to be sitting on the bench for a year or even half a year. It's going to be maybe a game or two if that. But I think it's going to be a good opportunity there, meets great talent, and so I think it's going to be a good performer.
Another Bears quarterback to go down the drain in my book. But anyway, Thomas, what are you thinking?
Wow. I mean, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's a good pick.
Listen, I love Fields' talents. Obviously, I wish it had been to San Francisco, but I still like the ability that he brings to any team. And Chicago, I think, was one of those sneaky teams that they were talking quarterback. They all played pranks on us, and then like, Andy Dalton's our quarterback. We all knew that wasn't true. They went out and got Justin Fields. I think if he gets the keys to the Corvette here sooner than later, because they do have a good team. They do have a running game.
The Bears
they do have an offensive line. They've got wide receiver. Come on, I mean, A-Rob, he's been making bad quarterbacks look good. You bring a good quarterback in for Allen Robinson now. I like where you're getting him, at least as far as right here in the second round. But his talent, I think, could certainly help change that fortune, or that franchise's fortune.
Just quarterbacks do not do well in Chicago. There's no Corvette around him. Don't get me wrong. I mean, what is Allen Robinson?
They're driving Lambos, baby.
Okay, that's a Lambo. Okay,
No, I was gonna say maybe like a
Allen Robinson,
maybe
is
like a
perennial
Mustang.
wide receiver,
like a Mustang, maybe
with
like a Charger, like a souped up
whoever
Acura.
throwing him the ball.
It's still good.
I don't
Here
think
we-
anyone can take. You can't take Fields over Lance. First off, because in the real NFL, Lance was the third pick. He's on a team that was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago with a much better offensive coordinator and a much better situation. I think Lance is more the pick here. I'm also not totally sold on Fields. He makes some bad decisions when he doesn't have the time around him. And on
You
the
make bad
Bears, he's going to
decisions.
have to make some quick decisions. I don't like him that much, but value-wise, pick-wise, I can understand it here. Not bad, middle of the second round. I would not, like I said, I would take Trey Lance over him if I'm going quarterback here. But I'll give you
Trey Lance is just such a project still. He's not pro ready. Justin Fields is ready to go.
Yeah,
He could take over Chicago Bears offense to start the season and bring you the rushing upside, the passing upside. I just think that he could certainly be somebody that could bring you value, especially right here in the middle of the second round.
Dwayne Haskins. That's all I have to say about that.
Dude, Dwayne Haskins never doesn't even look like Justin Fields. They're not even close to the same player. Get out of here.
I'm saying I don't like Justin Fields that much.
Get out of here, man. He had character issues.
Yeah.
Definite character issues. Fields does not have that.
Yeah.
They tried to say that he has work ethic issues. I don't know about that. I think he's going to be wanting to prove everybody wrong. So look for him to come out with a chip on his shoulder and really start to feast.
I just think he has decision-making issues, which doesn't bode well for a quarterback. In my
So do
opinion.
you. Okay, we can fix those. Okay, we can fix those.
Can he? Because not one Urban Meyer quarterback has. So just remember that.
He was an Urban Meyer quarterback.
Yeah. Anyhow, moving on to the next pick, which will be my pick, the 8th pick in the second round.
So you're probably messing it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna do something ridiculous, right? No, actually, I know who I'm gonna take here, and it's a guy who actually surprised me in the draft. Why he went as high as he did, which is why I'm gonna take him here. This is a draft capital pick, Kadarius Toney.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked that he went. We were talking about him pre-draft. Teams were really high on him. He was probably the name before the draft that the days leading up to it that shot up everybody's NFL draft board, and all of a sudden you're like, what's about this Kadarius Toney kid? And then you see the Giants, who were mad they lost out on Devontae Smith, move down and take him in the first round. We know he's electric. We know he can make plays. I don't think he's going to get on the field a whole lot his first year, second maybe. He's going to be a special teamer. So this is not a pick I'm looking to make a splash on this year. But I just think talent-wise, draft capital-wise, I'm going to keep my eye on him for the future, and I want him on my team.
Yeah, this was going to be my next pick had he fallen one more pick. But he's going to definitely get on the field as a returner. He's electric enough to certainly start to provide some value to the team, like you mentioned, on special teams. It's going to take some time, I think, until he can get worked into the target share. I mean, they just signed Galladay. They still have Slayton there, who they really like. You're still high on Evan Ingram for whatever reason, but this, in my mind, really kind of starts to kill Evan Ingram's value even more if they start to try to work this guy in. So
Sterling Shepard.
no, I mean, I mean, these guys are kind of nothing over the top, nothing flashy about it, but it's going to be guys that you have to come in and prove that you're better than. And I don't know that because he did have the drops issues at Florida, he's going to have to clean that up if he's going to want to be in that 3 wide receiver set.
Yeah. My biggest thing with him, I'm really curious about is he this year's Ruggs? And it seems to me he is, or Jalen Reagor style, where he's just going to come in and really underperform. But because they drafted him so high and he's sitting there on this board this late, I'm going to take a shot at this kid and wait on him. And as I mentioned, if you're taking him in a dynasty league, do not expect this kid to come out. And you're not going to start him once this year, I doubt. He's not going to be on the field enough projection-wise, and he probably won't be consistent enough either. But future talent-wise, he has the talent. There's a reason they have him. If you're drafting this kid in this draft, you need to hold on to him for a while and try not to give him up for thirds. Because this would be one of those kids, as you mentioned earlier, Chris, that doesn't do a lot the first years, maybe even second year, and all of a sudden you give up on him and give him away for cheap, and he comes out of nowhere. So this is definitely a speculative pick on my part. Chris, how do you?
He also does have the chance to step in as entry. Like Sterling Shepard has gotten hurt a decent amount before. He could step into that position, or it's always an option there. But with the Giants receivers as they are now, there's a good chance that he may be able to step in and prove himself a little bit earlier than that.
Yeah, also true. There's opportunity in New York. They don't seem to have a whole lot of consistency on offense, but I think that's going to change with the addition of Galladay. We'll see. Thomas, you have the 9th pick in the 2nd round. Who are you going?
So this is going to be another one of those draft capital picks. Anthony Schwartz, just given where he landed, he's got world-class speed, and now obviously that doesn't always translate to being a fantasy relevant wide receiver, but in most cases it does, okay, because these guys are usually very fast and they usually clock in very fast speeds, but he's not going to have a lot to compete there here in about a year or two. I think they're going to get rid of Odell Beckham here sooner than later. Jarvis Landry is coming up towards the end of his career. You got Rashard Higgins, who he's really competing for with touches, because I really do think they like Donovan Peoples-Jones to kind of start to make his way there. But as of right now, the Browns team is in a very win-now mode, and so the guys that I mentioned are still going to get snaps over him. But I believe that he does have the playmaking abilities to start opening things up for that Browns team that does like to still run the ball. But like I said, it's one of those things that's going to take some time. Might be a little bit of a reach here, but I like what he offers as far as being a playmaker there.
Yeah, as far as landing spots anymore, I think a lot of these are going to take some time. We're kind of at that point in the draft where these guys, especially as rookies, it's just they don't see the field that often anyway. And with a lot of these landing spots and a lot of the talent that's there, it's hard pressed to find a guy that's going to come in and be explosive right away. So right now you're looking for those sleepers in good positions. I like the pick here. I like that spot. Chris, what do you think?
So one issue I'd heard about him though is he has trouble catching. So that's not something. You can have him run down the field as fast as he can, and get down there, get open, and if you can't catch the ball, it's all for nothing. I have a feeling this might be a John Ross 2.0. Where he's a super fast guy, but he just doesn't have quite those football skills to translate to the next level. He's absolutely worth a flyer on, though, because if he can actually learn some of those skills, then he's going to be a threat and he's going to get you points.
Yeah, speculative-wise, this is like we mentioned earlier, the draft capital versus available talent pick, and it's a good value pick for here. But what does that say about this draft? That right now we're 2-9 and we're taking guys that we're kind of hoping on. Because I agree with the pick. I think it's actually a good pick right here. But there isn't a whole lot of talent left on the board that I'm really excited about moving forward. Is this just an early reaction, you think? Or what?
I would say it's a little bit of an early reaction, but at the same time, it's a little bit more landing spots. Some of these other guys who were valued a little higher don't have the most ideal landing spots, and I think that that's really going to start to hinder their value, at least in the immediate future, until things start to sort themselves out come training camp and preseason. So right now, yeah, you'd love to have a flyer on some of these guys. A couple other guys that are left on the board, I do like some of the talent that's out there, but the landing spot is really what makes me weary on them. And so I think that's kind of what we're seeing towards the end of the 2nd round.
Speaking of landing spot, I know you're really high on this next guy that the computer just drafted at the 10th pick in the 2nd round, Chuba Hubbard. running back Carolina. I was sure to text you on draft day as soon as he was drafted, saying welcome to the death of Chuba Hubbard. He is now Christian McCaffrey's backup. Granted, when McCaffrey's hurt, he will be on the field. But this, I think, kind of kills his career, to be honest. So,
Okay,
Thomas, what do you think?
I think that's a bit over the top, considering how much time Christian McCaffrey missed last season. That could be the start of a trend. You know, they're paying this guy X amount of dollars now, and so I mean they're going to be, I think, a little more careful with him. Let's get the rookie beat up a little bit, you know. But I absolutely hate the landing spot. I still love Chuba Hubbard and what he offers, but I do not like this landing spot at all. And that's the reason I passed up on him as many times as I did. Trey Sermon ended up really taking his place in my rankings, and then even going higher than that, which is why I drafted Sermon where I did at the end of that first. But I still like what he brings to the table. I just don't know when he's going to see the table.
Yeah, I think, honestly, he's undraftable. Anyone taking him, especially with this 10th pick in the second round, he's undraftable unless you have Christian McCaffrey on your roster.
It's one of those flyers type deals, or yes, you need to tie this guy to Christian McCaffrey, and that's really who I think he's going to have the most value to, unless someone's even higher on him than I was and is willing to take him higher.
I wouldn't draft him. I wouldn't even touch him unless, I mean, obviously, if I needed a running back who's like, I'm desperate late in the draft, third round, I might think about it, but I'm not drafting him unless I have Christian McCaffrey. Mm-hmm. Chris, what do you think?
I mean, so he's sitting there. He's going to be a better Mike Davis. You know, he's going to be sitting on the bench for a while. He's going to come in. He's going to play if, I guess more, I don't want to say when CMC gets hurt. But so if he gets hurt, you know, he'll come out, and I think he will perform very well. Maybe even enough to eventually get himself a contract on another team. But I mean, he's never going to surpass McCaffrey unless something serious happens and he sits out for a while.
A personal thing I have on my fantasy teams with running backs especially is I don't roster backup running backs unless I have the starter, because it's just a waste of a roster spot. When are you ever going to start Chuba Hubbard? Unless the only time is if Christian McCaffrey's hurt. So you're going to hold on to him and hope that he gets hurt, or just find an actual guy who's worth a roster spot that's worth a flyer on. I like I said, I think it kills his career. Kind of like an A.J. Dillon, where everyone was so high on A.J. Dillon. And I said, no, Aaron Jones is a stopper right in front of him. And guess what? Aaron Jones is a stopper right in front of A.J. Dillon. He was a second-round pick. He's never going to see the field. I'm sorry. You will never start A.J. Dillon unless you have Aaron Jones and he's hurt. So, you know, these guys, to me, I don't like it.
I mean, at least with Aaron Jones, there was the benefit of the doubt where he might actually not be with Green Bay. You know, he was coming up on the end of his contract. There was some doubt as to whether he would actually re-sign his contract or not.
Yeah.
I mean, with McCaffrey, there's no chance. They're not. He's staying there. He's staying there as long as the Panthers don't piss him off.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense.
And the Green Bay Packers did actually end up selecting another running back.
Yeah, right. I know. What was I kept telling Danny? Remember when he drafted A.J. Dillon? I said they're going to re-sign Aaron Jones. I said he wasn't. Everyone was so high on A.J. Dillon. Stop being high on these running backs that are backups.
Backups to backups.
As I draft Michael Carter at 7 or at 8. So.
You could arm with A.J. Dillon. I think I don't remember. Like I had him at one point, and I traded a second for him. So
yeah,
I mean, you know, you can draft some of those really talented backups, and they start getting some hype, and then you trade them away real quick.
Also true. Yeah, you never know. That's the hope, maybe. Chris, you have the next pick here at 11 in the second round.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Naji Brown.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's another one. It's going to take a little while for him to actually start being really fantasy relevant. But I do like the football team as an up and coming team. You know, with Fitz at the helm right now, he's going to be able to kind of be a more bridge, help them grow a bit as a team. They're going to have to get the quarterback of the future here soon enough. But so he's a really good, fast downfield guy, and they're going to have Scary Terry and then Curtis Samuel there with him as well. I think that could be a really good wide receiver trio. And eventually, Diami might be able to move up the ranks, but I think he'll be at least relevant for a little bit.
I like it. I think it's right around where he's going to go in most drafts. Thomas, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we're just kind of getting to that point where we are taking, I don't want to call them flyers necessarily, but they're late round guys who you're hoping pop. And in that offense, I don't know that he's going to pop right away. because they want to give their new guy Gibson some touches. They want to give the new guy Curtis Samuel some touches. And you do still have Terry McLaurin there, who's going to command, I think, a large portion of the target share still. So it's another one of those, I think, wait and see guys. And that's kind of what we're getting here this late in the draft. So it's, again, I think how it went in the NFL draft, where franchises had their preferences. It's going to come down to preferences as far as which receiver you kind of want to take your shots on here.
Yeah, I think all the receivers. Actually, that's a great point about these receivers here at this point in the draft. They're all in interesting positions. They're all interesting talent. Like the receivers I have with more talent, I think landed in slightly worse positions, and some of the ones with less talent. A great example would be the Amari Rodgers pick that I made. Landed in an ideal position. So, it's weird to me that some of these guys went to certain places when there were other guys available on the board in the NFL draft, but that's just how the NFL draft always goes. Seeing what they do in the preseason. That's why it's nice to have your fantasy drafts after the preseason like we do, just so you can see a little bit about that. For teams who are drafting right now, it's pick your poison. What do you think you're going to get out of each of these situations? Because there's guys who could see the field. De'Ami Brown's a great example of a guy who's going to probably get on the field, but no quarterback, and how often and how much. Just another one of these situations that I like the pick. I like the position on Washington. I think he's going to be a good receiver there. Just how quickly will he get there and how good will he be? All right, last pick, second round. The fact that he's still here, I'll definitely go ahead and just swoop him up. As I mentioned earlier, Trey Lance. I actually had another guy higher on my board than him, but Trey Lance being here at the end of the second round, I think, is a shame. I don't think he'll last that long in most drafts. I think he's the other quarterback in this draft to really watch, and especially after watching the Niners draft him, I really should have bet on it. It was a plus 600 going in. Man, and I was pretty sure they were going to. And then go ahead when we did our draft pick. I go Justin Fields, and Thomas, the guy who wants Justin Fields to go to San Fran, takes Trey Lance and gets it right. So go figure. I never trust my gut. I just, I went with the smart choice, and I chose wrong. But Trey Lance, talent-wise, I love him. I love the landing spot. He's just not going to play this year, but I really would. I think he'll be the most fantasy dangerous quarterback of the bunch. Trevor Lawrence will probably be more consistent as an actual quarterback, and maybe put up more consistent fantasy numbers. But if you want those explosion games that you get out of Patrick Mahomes, or in this case, he'll be more like Lamar Jackson, with those big rushing totals and passing totals. Maybe Jalen Hurts style, a little bit better though. I like Trey Lance a lot. So, Thomas, what do you think?
Yeah, I like the pick here. This is typically where you start to see the QBs of the class kind of go. Late second, early third is when you start to see a little bit of a run there. A la last year, we had Justin Herbert, who really wasn't being talked about, and he was drafted, I believe, early in the third round in some rookie drafts. And look what he turned into. He turned into a top 8 quarterback right off the bat. So it's certainly possible to find those guys in this area. Trey Lance could certainly be one of those guys. Like you said, it's not going to be this year unless something happens with Jimmy G and he's thrust into action, and we're gonna see what he has right away. But I think absolutely next year he could be one of those guys that we are comparing to Justin Herbert, making that leap into really QB1 territory right away.
I think one other extra interesting factor on him that people aren't talking about enough, especially fantasy-wise, running quarterbacks don't last that long in the NFL. He's only 20. He'll be 21 going into this year. So he gets another extra couple years of that rushing production where he's still going to be explosive. He's going to getting more explosive. He still hasn't even hit his physical peak. So I just think you might see more fantasy numbers put up by this kid, and he's clearly going to be the guy in San Fran for at least 5 years. He'll get the full contract there. I like it. I think he'll be a great fantasy quarterback. I might be getting the steal of the draft here, second round. Chris, what do you think?
I think he is built to get you fantasy points once he actually gets onto the field. He great landing spot there with Shanahan. There's so many tools around him on the Niners. He's stepping into basically a Super Bowl ready team. They're only missing those few different positions. The one worry though is he's not going to be starting right away. And it just hurts seeing a quarterback just sitting there on your bench not done anything yet. like I drafted Tua last year, and I'm excited I held on to him, but there were a few points where I was like, man, maybe I should try and trade out because I'm sitting here just not seeing any production. But yeah, I do think he would normally go a little bit higher than this. I'd say probably about maybe mid-second for a skill set, and especially because we're not drafting from positions in need here. We're going strictly best player available, which you should normally do. But also, once you start getting to this point of the draft, or even just in general, if you have no quarterbacks, you're going to be reaching a bit higher for a quarterback. And there's always at least a couple teams in your league that are going to do that.
I think also, as we mentioned with quarterbacks earlier, superflex wise, this kid's a top 3 in almost every superflex mock I've seen, and I'd still put him in top 3 no matter how you like him. He's going to be 2 or 3, whatever quarterbacks you like better. Some people like Zach Wilson, some people like Fields. Some people even somehow like Mac Jones. But Trey Lance is almost consensus top 3. Everybody likes Trey Lance, at least fantasy-wise. And then with this landing spot, I think it kind of solidified him there. My personal opinion, though. Mm-hmm. Thomas, you are now up again. 3rd round. We are into the 3rd round. Who are you going with?
All right. So I'm going to go with another one of these guys that I think is actually going to start to make a difference a little quicker than we think here. I took Dwayne Eskridge. He did get drafted by Seattle.
Yeah.
I know that he's sitting behind as far as the pecking order goes, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, but David Moore no longer is there. And they've really been kind of looking for a guy to either work that outside or continue working the slot next to Tyler Lockett. But they don't have anybody over the middle of the field at the tight end position really commanding any targets. And then you've got your running backs who they tend to use both of them here and there. So it's going to be one of those things where I think he's going to start to get some looks. Like I said, sooner than later, he's a utility guy who really offers a lot to an offense. And as long as they continue to let Russ cook or just find a way to get this guy the ball, he could, like I said, make an impact sooner than later.
Chris?
I agree. That's a team you want a receiver on. Russell Wilson makes it happen. It doesn't really matter what they have as a running game or as an offensive line or anything like that. He is the one that makes it happen, gets it downfield. DJ Moore vacating those catches. He was still a productive player. He wasn't necessarily always fantasy relevant, but did have a few games here and there that would help out. And I think if they could actually move to doing more 3 receiver sets and actually making, like pulling Eskridge into the game, he'll add more value. They also, the running game is okay at times. It's forced, I think, a lot of the times. They just decided to not pick up the 5th-year option on Penny, so currently it's just Chris Carson, really. So I think they might move to more pass-heavy team, or at least hopefully they stay a pass-heavy team the whole season, as opposed to the first half and then switch to run-heavy the second half.
Yeah, we know Pete Carroll likes to throw the ball. I'm not sure on Eskridge just because it's the 3rd round. I'll take a shot on Dwayne Eskridge here, but you got DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett there. That pretty much solidified. Those two were both top 6 and 5, or 5 and 6, or top 5 even. Yeah. They're just huge in fantasy. Russell Wilson clearly likes those two above the rest. Eskridge will get on the field and he'll make some plays out of the slot. So you're right. He might get a few more targets share, but I just don't know about long term. I don't see Lockett going anywhere anytime soon, and DK definitely isn't. So he's got a crowded room in front of him and guys who eat up tons of targets. I just don't know if the target share is going to be there ever in his career. I have 4 other receivers above him on my board just because of situation a little bit more. But talent-wise and with Russell Wilson as your quarterback, it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's one of those things like Smalls was mentioning. He's gonna get the plays, he's gonna get the ball to make the plays here and be efficient with it. I know that he's behind Lockett, he's behind Metcalf, but David Moore, he was a flex appeal, right? And so I would say that Eskridge offers a little more than Moore does, at least in a situation like that. So to say that a rookie 3-1 could eventually become flex. Flex consideration, then yeah, I would love to take a shot at 3-1.
Yeah, and not too bad. I don't mind that pick there. 3-2, computer decided to take the other quarterback on our board still. Well, there's two more really big names, but Zach Wilson here, Danny's pick. Yeah, Zach Wilson, depending on your board, is either the second best, third best, or fourth best quarterback in this draft. According to the Jets, he's the second best quarterback in this draft. But according to the Jets, Sam Darnold was the best quarterback in the draft. So I'm not sure I trust the Jets' decision making. Zach Wilson, I'm not sure I trust his decision making. But third round, second pick in the third round, that's really a good spot for him. Do you think he'll go around here in most drafts?
That's what I would see. I think this is a good spot for him. I mean, he does have that promise. He's stepping in there as a starter day one. Even if he's not going to be performing at his peak at the beginning, so he'll be performing at least, at least be getting some points out of there. He has pretty good deep ball. He might not have the best decision making, but I think he at least has the tools to make it work.
Yeah. Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, this is like I was mentioning on my last pick, and with your pick, this is right around the time you do see the third and fourth best quarterbacks in the draft start to get drafted. I really like what the Jets are doing. Like we talked about earlier in the episode here, the Jets made a lot of really good decisions here in this draft. They got their quarterback, they got their running back, they got their wide receiver, they got line to help bolster that. Mekhi Becton coming into his second year at left tackle, and that guy's a monster. So Zach Wilson, they're really going to give him every opportunity here to succeed and make that team a better team. But I don't know that's going to happen right away. And depending on if, like you're saying, his decision making on those first and second reads doesn't start to improve, then maybe we have another Johnny Manziel on our hands, or just possibly another Sam Darnold on our hands. But if he can start to make those reads, he can throw the ball downfield, and he can start to make some splash plays for you. So I don't hate the pick here. Again, we're at the early third round, and so that's gonna be another one of those guys to really keep your eye on here.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Wilson's going to be he's going to be the starting quarterback for the Jets for the near future, kind of like Sam Darnold. He's just, the Jets are the Jets. They don't have a whole lot of talent. They did a good job of addressing it in the last few drafts, so he has some pieces around him. But I'm not too sure about him. Either way, third pick or second
Robert
pick.
Robert Saleh and his new coaching staff, I think, is going to
Right, also.
we're going to see what they have to bring to the table, because he's coming from San Francisco, and we know what he did out there with that defense and being part of that, just that culture out there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Chris, you have the third pick in the third round. Who are you going?
I'm going with it's going to be another one of those kind of prospective picks here. Tutu Atwell.
Yeah.
He's got that speed. I think it was a 4.35 40, something like that. He's a small guy. He's 5'9", so it might be cause a little bit of issues there. But so he's going to get down the field, and then having Stafford get that ball to him, I think, is going to be electric. There is still receivers to compete with there, but he does feel that unique role where I don't think he's going to have too much competition and be able to actually get on the field fairly quickly.
He seems like Tavon Austin 2.0 to me when they're bringing him back into that same thing where he's going to be a gadget receiver coming out of the slot, coming across the middle and doing a lot of these returning kicks and speed jet sweeps. But yeah, the reason I have him high on my board too, and I think there's a great pick here, is just you have to pay attention to teams in the NFL draft. They took him in this third round. Why are the Rams getting a receiver like him, who I never really looked into, this high? And there's a reason. It's because he's electric. They have plans for him, and you're talking about the master of offensive scheme in Sean McVay. So, kind of curious what they're going to do with that kid. I like that spot, and I think if you can get him in the third round, if he's still on the board, he's definitely this will be a good spot to get him. Thomas?
I think this is honestly perfect for him. Like you had said, he's a gadget player, and Sean McVay likes the gadget players for filling a certain role, but I don't think that they're going to mold the game plan around Tutu Atwell. Okay, so you've still got Robert Woods there, who they paid and extended. You've still got Cooper Kupp, who they paid and extended. You've got Tyler Higbee, who they paid and extended. Cam Akers came into his own. there's a lot working against gadget players to be ultra successful and relevant in fantasy. They could have their blow up games, they could score these return touchdowns, but I do like what he offers as far as the wide receiver goes. But they drafted Van Jefferson last year, so it's either they don't like what Van Jefferson offers or they like more what this kid offers. But it's going to certainly be a wait and see with him. But he does bring that gadget player aspect back to the Rams offense there.
Yeah, I mean, and we have a lot of these gadget guys that seem to go pretty high in the real NFL draft. That was the surprise to me. I saw a lot of these receivers. I like their body size, their physical talent, and for some reason, the speedy guys. Not for some reason, it's the NFL. You need speed, but these speed guys seem to get overdrafted. I saw the Eagles reach last year on Jalen Reagor, and the Raiders reached on Henry Ruggs, and they didn't really pan out right away. And I'm not sure about Tutu Atwell's skill set either.
Wasn't this the Rams' first pick in the draft as well, just because they've been trading away their first and seconds like they're nothing the last couple of years?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it may have been, yeah.
It's just it was an interesting pick, and that's why we have to take notice, and the draft capital matters. So there's a reason they took him with their first selection in the draft.
I also got to just point out real quick, you always talk up Reagor so much, but you just talked him down right there. So which one is it, Adam?
I think Reagor disappointed because he was hurt last year, and Carson Wentz is terrible, and the Eagles are terrible. So that's all that was.
And he was a reach also, apparently.
Oh, he was a reach for sure.
Okay.
Of course he was a reach.
Right. Just clarifying. I don't know. It seems like it kind of changes.
I was the Vikings draft room. I was the opposite of the Vikings draft room on draft day when they took Reagor. I was yelling at my TV. I was mad. It was an easy pick, and they blew it anyway.
I'd be mad too.
Yeah, right. Moving on to another easy pick here. I'm surprised this guy's on the board still. Nico Collins. Once again, pay attention to what teams are doing. The Texans take this kid in the 3rd round. He is a big body receiver. They lost Will Fuller. He's going to step right into a role on that team. And if Deshaun Watson stays and isn't suspended, which honestly I highly doubt either of those, but I still like the fact that you're getting a kid who's going to be a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2 on that team for the near future. He's going to get a chance to play, and they were high enough on him to take him in the 3rd round. So if he's sitting here on the board still at the 4th pick in the 3rd round, I absolutely am taking this kid. I had him a lot higher than a lot of the receivers that were taken before him just because of that fact. As we mentioned, gadget players have a hard time being fantasy relevant. When you're talking about a guy who's probably going to get a pretty good target share in Houston, that's, to me, target share is what it's all about. If the ball's coming your way, you have a chance to make plays. And I feel like he has a chance to get a high target share in Houston for a long time. I love this pick here. I would scoop that up in half a second. Thomas?
I don't even know what to say to that. That's listen, I don't know who has a worse roster in the entire league than the Houston Texans, okay? Tyrod Taylor, as of right now, is penciled in as the starting quarterback. They did draft Davis Mills, which we can give them some props for that. But I think that's a little bit of insight into the organization that they're starting to think about life after Deshaun, because a lot of the pro analysts and inside circles are saying, obviously with all this litigation that's surrounding him, he's probably played his last snap in Houston. Where else is he going to go, though? And that's going to be a different question for a different day. But But as of right now, Tyrod Taylor's a starting man there, and Nico Collins is coming into, pardon my French, an absolute shit show of a franchise. So I don't know that. I mean, I get it's the 3rd round, and I would still take my shot on other guys over Nico Collins. But I guess I just don't see it. I like his talent, but I just don't see it.
Great moments happen when opportunity meets preparation, baby. This man has been preparing his entire life to be a receiver in the NFL.
The Texans are going to ruin it for him, and they're going to kill his dream.
But he is in a perfect position. I mean, you're talking about last year how CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper were such great receivers when they had no Dak Prescott, and you're talking them up, and they're still fantasy relevant.
They had serviceable backup called Andy Dalton. I mean, I don't know.
Andy Dalton's barely a serviceable backup.
Oh no, he's one of the better backups you can have.
He's probably one of the better backups. Okay.
Yeah, come on now.
But we're still talking. I mean, what's his who was it for the Niners? Who was in Nick Mullins is in there, and they're still getting fantasy relevance out of Ayuk. You can get fantasy relevant players just from target share. If the ball's coming your way 15 times a game, you're gonna have a chance to do something. And he's probably going to see the ball 15 times a game because, as you mentioned, Houston is a shit show of a franchise. There's no one else there. He's sitting on the board here in the 3rd round. I expect him to go higher, honestly. I'd be surprised in drafts if he doesn't go higher than this because he's in a great situation. You got a chance for this kid to be relevant fantasy-wise this year and moving forward the next few years.
If you can get him at the end of the 3rd, maybe maybe I start to take that shot. Otherwise, I'll let that be somebody else's headache.
No, so Adam, I'm with you here. I mean, I actually was looking between Tutu and Nico. I would maybe even swap those. The reason I didn't, and I put actually Atwell ahead, is just because the Rams are an overall better organization.
Yep.
So I do trust them better. They're going to be a better team, and with a better team, there's more points to go around.
Yep.
But with Nico Collins, though, like you said, he's going to go in there. There's so many targets that are vacated, and he's going to be able to soak those up. There are going to be, there's still going to be someone throwing the ball. There still has to be someone catching the ball, so that's still going to happen. We've seen a lot of we've seen a lot of teams that are really bad, but still put up fantasy points, like the Jaguars of old. They were terrible, but they would still put up just crazy fantasy points some games. But then also one thing, who says they don't bring a quarterback in next year?
Yeah.
They're obviously going to be have a pretty high draft pick. Actually, if they have their first, I don't remember if they have their first next year. No, yeah, so that'll hurt. So that part hurts his value a little bit more.
Davis Mills is hoping they're hoping he's the answer. They got him.
When
and
they
he's a good
trade
prospect.
Deshaun, they'll probably get a first or two. They should get. They're waiting to get a few first. Someone will give up.
Yeah.
But although the team that trades him will not have a very high first, I'm guessing because Deshaun Watson's pretty good.
Unless they trade him while he's suspended.
I'm just saying, Devontae Smith in Philly. What do you just because the situation is terrible around the team? That's even more reason to like the guy as an individual player. He has a.
Well, I mean, obviously, we like Devontae Smith over Nico Collins. Like, obviously,
okay. Great situation. He's gonna be the top receiver there. It's him and Cooks. I mean, he'll be the number 2 receiver behind Brandon Cooks, but still.
Again, I think I talk about it on every episode. We got a middling team here. You're a middling team until last year. You finally won the chip.
Oh. Says the newcomer who was lucky.
Wow.
We'll let it go. It's fine.
You're so humble, Thomas. You're just so humble.
The newbie who has good drafts and then just goes downhill every year after that. Let's just.
But either way, I draft good because I don't draft fucking Nico Collins. Okay.
What at 3-4? What?
You know what?
Wow.
Then whatever.
That's gonna be a game changer right there. At 3-4.
3-5 right here. Who's your pick?
Yeah, let's hear a game changer.
So
here.
as much as I hate the landing place, I think the value is too great to continue to pass up on Kenneth Gainwell.
Yes.
This is one of those things where I don't hate on Philly as much because they have again made fantasy relevant running backs out of Darren Sproles, fucking Corey Clemens.
Fantasy relevant in sense. In a backup sense, Darren Sproles wasn't a good. You would never start him.
Dude,
he's a flex.
Darren Sproles certainly had some flex appeal. Okay,
that's true.
Meddling team again. Meddling team.
I won the championship.
But I mean, he's one of these guys who obviously we were very high on pre-NFL draft for his skill set and playmaking abilities. And I think, and at least in my opinion, he certainly slid. I don't know about this far, just because, I mean, we're talking middle of the 3rd round here now. I think that he still does offer you some fantasy relevance, even behind Miles Sanders there, just considering what he does out of the backfield receiving.
That's the big key with him. So this late in the draft is the only reason he's even worth taking as a backup, because he will see the field. The Eagles do use their 3rd down backs. Boston Scott, you saw that. Darren Sproles, you saw that. And he is a 3rd down back. Yep. Sanders also gets hurt a lot. So I see him as an upgrade to Boston Scott. He's just a better runner than Boston Scott. And pretty good pass blocker, too. So he'll be on the field. And he'll catch some passes. The Eagles do like to dump it off. Hurts will get the ball out of his hands quickly. I could see him being fantasy relevant enough for flex appeal, but understand with him, that's your top end ever, because even when he is starting, I don't see him as a great running back that's going to get the bulk of touches in any situation he's in. So
But just given what the positions back to position scarcity slightly, that's why I like him over guys like Nico Collins. I mean, I do like what Tutu Atwell offers, so I'm not going to say. I mean, I guess I probably still would have taken Gainwell over him even then, just because there's still a pretty good amount of wide receivers here that you can kind of just take your shots on. But running back, especially this far in the draft, is starting to dwindle.
Very true. Chris?
I really wish we would have gone to a handful of other teams. Like you said, he'll be there on third down. That's about it. Take over that Boston Scott role, the Miles Sanders role every once in a while. But then even when Miles Sanders goes down, he's going to share that with Boston Scott. Yeah. So I don't think he's ever going to control that backfield himself. It's always going to be by committee, which, I mean, is a good football move for the Eagles, but a bad fantasy move. I would have liked to. He has the talent. I really would have liked to see him anywhere else. I think right around there is a decent landing spot for him, though. When you are drafting him, because he is one of those where if all the right things happen for him and wrong things happen for other people, then he could really shine for you.
No, absolutely, yeah, I agree. A fantasy move, not great, but when he did Eagles draft him, I was extremely happy because I love his talent. He is a very talented player. He's just probably never going to see the field ahead of Miles Sanders, and Miles Sanders is definitely the guy in Philadelphia moving forward. So it hurts his fantasy value, but he's still a good player. He's a good third down back, and he will get some flex consideration even in his first season. You might have a chance to play him in some weeks. So good pick here. Next pick is the auto draft. Danny Pert drafted Ramondre Stevenson. Interesting pick. I had him as a consideration on my board, but I wouldn't have drafted him just for the fact that he's in New England and a running back. I mean, there's a whole lot of reasons, really, as far as this is. I think this is just really, as you mentioned, Thomas, position scarcity pick. Seems that the computer likes to do that. How do you feel about him?
I mean, I obviously don't hate him as a player, but when you're talking about fantasy, you guys have been kind of citing the New England, the New England format as far as running backs go, and he goes and joins New England, and so they have 3 or 4 other running backs already. And as of right now, Cam Newton is still the starting quarterback. So he's a big guy. He doesn't offer a lot of speed. He's definitely a bruiser. And so I don't know that unless they want to hold off and kind of ease the brakes on Cam a little bit, maybe he sees goal line work. But Damian Harris has been proven to be their goal line back. James White is still seeing targets there. I think Rex Burkhead is still there. Sony Michel is still there. I don't like the pick right here. I would certainly, again, like we talked about, take a shot at maybe those other wide receivers. Even with position scarcity, I might take a shot on a couple of other guys left on the draft board. I just don't like what he has to offer us at all.
Yeah, I agree. I don't even know if he's draftable. I don't even know if he'll make the team. So I'd be surprised if he made the team there with how crowded it is there. But you know how New England is with their running backs. Chris, what do you do?
So I'm on the same boat. Way too crowded, way too many players there. Rex Burkhead is a free agent as of now, but they might sign him again. I don't know, that they seem to like him for when he played in the role he played there. Stevenson is a slower guy. I mean, he's big. He's 6 foot and over 231 pounds. So he's a pretty big guy. But yeah, he's just slower. He's on the Patriots.
Yeah.
And that's just a huge reason why I don't think he's going to beat anyone out there. He's just going to be just another guy in the rotation.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if anybody drafts him. Some Patriots fans will draft him as another flyer in case everyone else gets hurt, but that's about it. Chris, you have the next pick, the 7th pick in the 3rd round.
Yeah, I am. Where'd he go? So I'm actually going flyer here as well. I'm hoping, I don't know if we're paying it or not, but I'm hoping he might be the next James Robinson. Going Hawkins, Javian Hawkins, undrafted guy. So he's little, he's fast. He can hit the hole. He can just bounce off guys, and he can get those yards after catch. He can get yards after catch, and also yards after scrimmage. So I think it's one of those. He's definitely a lotto ticket. But I've read some good things, and they haven't really done much for running back in Atlanta.
That's the key. position scarcity and opportunity. As I mentioned, opportunity is what it's all about. When preparation meets opportunity, he has opportunity. He has a chance to be the guy in Atlanta. What a great chance for an undrafted guy.
Right.
But talent-wise, I'm not a big fan of his talent, and looks like they're going to go, what? Was it Mike Davis who's there right now?
He is there now,
Exactly.
yeah.
I'm going to guess.
But he put up 3 good games last year, and then he didn't really do much for the rest of the season.
It seems like Atlanta's waiting another year or something for running back. I'm really not sure what they're doing, but I'm not. For this pick right here, if you need a running back, I would take that. I'll take a shot on him. Tom?
I think Mike Davis is more. More competent than you guys are maybe giving him credit for, because he was very serviceable last year when Christian McCaffrey went down, and so I think that they brought him in on $8 million or something like that. So they're going to use the guy. He's shown what he can do. He's shown that he can catch the ball in the backfield, but still get down and dirty in between the 20s there. So let's not write off Mike Davis quite yet. Considering again with these undrafted guys, there's not a lot tethering the two. So it's certainly a flyer. Middle of the 3rd round. If you are looking for running back, I could see wanting to take a shot. Again, I still have a couple other guys just a little higher if we're talking about just being backups in positions where they could, supersede the guy who's there initially.
Yeah, I have a few guys higher too, but not much higher, and so I like the pick here. This is a time I think all these running backs at this point we're taking flyers on. So if you need a running back, he's a good one to take a flyer on at this point. Next pick, I'm going to take. Where is this guy? Oh, I guess I'm diving deep into my board again. Huh?
That's when you know it's going to be good.
Oh man, how deep into my board am I diving? Apparently all the way down. So I guess Sleeper doesn't value him very highly. There he is. Bam. Dez Fitzpatrick.
Okay.
Dez Fitzpatrick here, sitting here late in the 3rd round.
Oh,
If you haven't
yeah.
heard Dez Fitzpatrick, this is a wide receiver the Titans have signed. The Titans are looking for a receiver. They got rid of Corey Davis. There's an opening there. Once again, opportunity is what it's all about. You have a chance to get on the field and be in a passing offense, not a running offense, but a chance to shine with Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill's there. The Titans' offense was more dynamic than people realized last year, and there's a reason Corey Davis actually had as good a season as he did. Kid was drafted 109th overall. Projects to be pretty solid. We set some records with Louisville. He's a good, just solid overall receiver. He likes to go up and get the ball, and I like the fact that he's not going to have a whole lot of attention with AJ Brown opposite him. So, chance to get in there and get touches right away. I think he's better than a lot. I had him a lot higher on my board actually. I had him at 20th overall. So if he's here mid to late 3rd round, I'm taking him every time. Thomas.
Yeah, it's another good spot for a young wide receiver, but I'm not entirely sold quite yet. We're just gonna have to see what he has to offer. As of right now, I think they're gonna continue to keep that the AJ Brown show. I don't see any reason why they need to go another direction. And the Derrick Henry show, but it's one of these flyer picks. It's again preference. This is the guy you prefer. This middle of the 3rd, late in the 3rd. It's not a guy I would prefer. But like you're saying, if the opportunity and the upside is there, then maybe we can make magic. But I think in our ideal landings episode, I feel like you were all against wide receivers going to Tennessee, and then one lands in Tennessee, and you're willing to take a flyer on them.
Well, we're talking late.
Well, that's
round. Yeah. And
so those aren't mutually exclusive.
Like I said, it's a flyer. It's a flyer.
on top of that, the Titans traded the 126th, the 166th, and the 232nd pick to move up to get him, to move up 15 spots. So we're talking about giving up 3 picks for one. Clearly, they want this kid. He's coming in there in a great situation to be on the field, and we're getting to the late 3rd round. Absolutely, on my fantasy team, if I have this pick, I'm taking this guy because no one else on the board excites me at all. And I
Like that preference is preferential at this
Exactly.
point. This
And
late
that's
is
what-
preferential.
I was gonna say that when your immediate reaction was the same thing. Yeah, another receiver. I mean, it's like it is. Every one of the receivers is kind of the same thing. Like, hey, they're all kind of good. They're all in kind of good spots. I guess we're gonna have to see. And there are a whole lot of receivers doing a whole lot of interesting spots that I guess we'll have to see. Chris, what do you think?
Opportunity pick for sure. They can't only throw it to AJ Brown. They can mostly throw it to him, but they still got to throw it to someone else sometimes. They can't just
Brown
start triple teaming AJ Brown and then just shut down the game. There'll be other guys around there. He's tall. He's 6'2". He's what is he, 208. So he's a taller, not super stocky guy. So he should be able to move pretty well. He can actually go up and get those jump balls if he needs. And again, AJ Brown is going to draw most of that coverage. He's always, it's not like it's not like Fitzpatrick is ever going to face the top cornerback. That's never going to happen. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities there, and I think he will perform pretty decently. He's definitely worth a flyer for sure.
Watch Des Fitzpatrick in the future. I'm just saying, if you're looking for that late flyer in this draft, he's a guy who I think could be wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 potential coming down maybe the next year. That might take a minute, but he's got some upside. 9th pick, 3rd round, Thomas.
Yeah, this is more of an insurance policy in my eyes, but I'm going to take a flyer here on Elijah Mitchell. He's one of those guys that definitely started taking the people who could have looked, the scouts. There we go. It was like I couldn't think of the word. It was there. I couldn't think of the word. It really started to turn some pro scout heads at his pro days and just the measurements at his combine. He's a very fast kid. He's elusive. He's got the build to be a very good running back. Now, with my pick earlier, I drafted Trey Sermon. They're both in the same running back room now, but all the names I mentioned earlier, they're kind of going to start phasing those guys out. And I think these are going to be the new guys here. One of these guys is going to stick, and that's why I say insurance policy. If Elijah Mitchell sticks over, Trey Sermon, then I at least got my guy, albeit late in the 3rd. Or if Trey Sermon's the guy, then I at least tether my Elijah Mitchell to my Trey Sermon for the future.
Yep, I think that's smart. Chris, what do you think?
So I still have a little bit of issue with it, with being since San Francisco's so crowded, it's almost kind of similar to the New England what we were just talking about, where there's just so many.
It's not nearly as crowded though. It's like Tevin Coleman's gone. Raheem Mostert, I think, is the only guy left there, and then you got the 2 newbies coming out of the draft here.
Jeff Wilson too.
Okay,
He's poop.
but they're going to use all of them. I know Shanahan has done differently before. There's no guarantee he's going to change what he does because it's been working for him recently. I don't know. It's a flyer opportunity, and also at that point you're drafting your handcuff there, so that kind of makes sense. And with that, we're with the middle of the 3rd now.
Yeah,
I don't love it, but I also don't hate it.
Yeah. I like Elijah Mitchell going into the draft. I also like him, here at the end of the 3rd round as a handcuff to Sermon, and with the other running backs as I mentioned, I definitely have him over Ramondre Stevenson and Javian Hawkins, but I think talent wise he's there. He's in a decent situation. I just also believe with how loaded that room is, it's going to be tough for him to see the field for at least a little bit. And really at this point, running back is not very deep in this draft, as we've found. There's 5 guys really who you're looking at in this draft, and after that, you're taking a whole lot of shots. And the 5 guys you're looking at, there's no guarantees up there. There's really 2 guys you can almost guarantee, and even then, as I mentioned at the beginning, Etienne I'm not positive on. So it's if you need a running back and you're late in the draft, Elijah Mitchell's not a bad flyer to take. I like the pick here. Mm-hmm. Next pick was the auto draft, which is another running back. Kylan Hill, Danny takes. The running back who went to the Packers. Once again, the Packers drafting a running back for no reason at all. Is Kylan Hill even worth a draft pick, Thomas? That's my question.
It's kind of hard to warrant it right now. You are playing the long con with him because you're having to wait out Aaron Jones. You're having to wait out AJ Dillon now.
Yeah.
So it's puzzling because the Packers are like, yo, we're gonna get you some weapons, Aaron Rodgers. Here's our third string running back that we're gonna use draft capital on. So I don't get it. I don't understand it. Obviously, not a good landing spot. He did have some hype around him coming into the draft as a top 10 running back in dynasty drafts, but I just don't see it now because it's a very bad spot.
Yeah, terrible spot. I liked his talent, but just there's no reason. Once again, unless you have Aaron Jones, not really a reason to draft this guy. And yeah, the running back position is really scarce. It's going to be hard to find running backs in this draft. You're going to need to probably make some moves if you're looking for running backs and you don't have one of those top picks because they're going to go pretty quick.
You're talking Aaron Jones, but I mean also AJ Dillon.
Right.
I mean, I think AJ Dillon is better than this guy. So even if Aaron Jones is gone, then you're still drafting that second string running back.
Yeah. Kylan Hill's never going to see the field. I wouldn't draft him if I had a pick, but
It's hard. It's hard to warrant unless you really need running back and you're willing to wait it out.
Yeah, it's going to be years. I will say, just going back really quick, I was curious because I know the Niners signed a running back. They also signed Wayne Gallman, so another running back in that room.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That room is crowded. However, Gallman has no guaranteed money, and Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert are on expiring contracts. So, interesting situation in San Francisco moving forward. Kind of curious who's going to come out, and I'm pretty sure you might be right, Thomas, that it's going to be Trey Sermon.
The guru, baby.
The guru says so. That's not that good an option. All right. We are now at the second to last pick, the 11th pick of the third round. Chris, who do you have?
Let's go Cornell Powell. Just getting some
Really?
interest into the Chiefs. It's gonna be definitely a depth guy. McCole Hardman really is gonna start coming to his own this year, I believe. And so I think Powell is going to be kind of sitting on the wings waiting his turn as well. But I think once his turn does come, if he can actually start getting out there and playing with Mahomes and actually make a connection, I think it'd be worth that second to last pick flyer.
No, absolutely. If we're talking late in the third round, you want a Chiefs player. Get anyone off the Chiefs. Please take a shot.
Get some skin in that game.
Absolutely, it's not a bad player. I have a couple guys I'll take receivers I would take over him, and I'll get to that in a minute. But no. Not bad. Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, again, we're just late here in the third. It's all about preference, It's all about preference. And so to get someone who could certainly make an impact down the road, considering Mahomes isn't going anywhere and that offense, I'm sure, is always going to be overpowered. I do like some other guys still left here, but yeah, I mean, to take a shot on a guy who has got a chance to play with one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the league, I'll take it.
Yeah. Yep. We're still on that Flyers with the receivers, and we've been there for about the last 10 receivers. So there are a lot of receivers in a lot of positions in this draft. And looking at our draft board, there are a lot of running backs that came off the board, but none of them are that stand out except for the beginning ones. It's a lot of receivers in this draft, and then the quarterbacks, and then the 2 tight ends. Which now with the last pick, I'm going to make 3 tight ends because I will take Brevin Jordan with that last pick. Because I don't really. Once again, you can pick up any of these receivers if you want to. I don't need another receiver. If I need a tight end, Brevin Jordan has a chance to get on the field in Houston. The only guy in front of him is Fells, I believe. And Darren
maybe.
Fells.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I did have that pulled up.
He's 33. He's 35. So he's just. Brevin Jordan has a chance to be the tight end of the future. As we mentioned, Houston's probably the worst team in the league. So you can see this kid getting on the field and developing into something, and he has a lot of talent. I liked his talent coming in, as far as pass catching. He needs to learn how to block, and he needs a lot of help. And he's going to be a tight end that takes some time to learn the game. So don't expect him, just like most tight ends, he's not going to be startable for the first year or two. And even honestly, maybe not worth the roster spot right away. But if you have a big, deep rosters like a lot of these leagues do, he's the guy who I would consider drafting and stashing. Tom?
They do currently have Jordan Akins and Pharaoh Brown listed as their 2 tight ends on the starting chart. Ryan Izzo also is of note. But yeah, then Brevin.
Yeah, Akins, that's who it was. Now Fells is gone, so it's just Akins. Yeah. How much do you think?
I I like this pick better than your Nico Collins pick.
Really?
Just because I do like what Brevin Jordan does offer you as a tight end. And yeah, he's going to be their tight end in the future. And so hopefully once they iron out this quarterback situation, we've seen Houston Texans tight ends be productive. Darren Phillips, I believe, has been in the top 10 scoring and tight ends on multiple weeks. So it's not to say that he can't get it done there, but it's going to take some time, as it is with that whole team. But I do like the upside he offers you at the tight end position a little more than Nico Collins, just because we can find still probably same, if not better value even after that last pick there.
Okay, Chris.
Mr. Irrelevant, almost, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's filling that slot. You're barely paying anything for him. So if he doesn't produce, then you're not going to feel too bad with letting him hit the waiver wire after a little bit if you have to actually make a change and say pick someone up and swap out for him. I think he does have a very good chance of stepping forward and producing. I mean, there are some players there already. I don't know if he's necessarily better than them or not. But again, I think he's definitely worth a spot. I would possibly even, I was thinking about taking him a little bit earlier as well because of that positional scarcity there. I think that's a little bit of a steal. But yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, Mr. Irrelevant, last pick of the draft. So definitely came in there, slid in just under the radar. I had him 33rd on my list. They get him at 36, right around there. These tight ends will start going later thirds. And as we, in any draft, you get toward the end of the draft, and it's just not a lot of talent. It's all flyer territory at this point. You're really just hoping to find that guy who can possibly develop into something. So taking a shot on these young kids in good situations, that's really what you're looking for at this point. Thomas, any honorable mentions? Anyone you had on your board that we didn't get to that we want to mention at least?
At this point, I don't. I mean, I was able to really, obviously, with how we were picking, snag a lot of the guys that I did like and I did have my eye on. And so I would say I definitely got a good values on some of these guys, but nobody really left that really stands out in my opinion.
Chris, you have anybody? I have.
Yeah, one guy I'm kind of looking at is more of just a flyer again is Daz Newsome with the Bears. Again, he's going to be step into that slot role. And I think the Bears, they have a good team. They could get better, and I think a little bit more help in the receiver room. I think could work out because I think the Bears are starting to be more of a rising star. So if you can kind of get onto one of those teams that's starting to get become better over year and year, then decent flyer.
I mean, I'm surprised nobody mentioned Josh Palmer. How did we not even talk about Josh Palmer? He went mid-third round to the Chargers with Justin Herbert. The kid didn't have a very productive college career, but he made when he played, he was playing against the top corners. We're talking about Sante Samuel and Patrick Surtain, and he was making them look bad. And he's in a great situation on a team that needs a receiver with an older Keenan Allen, and I could see this kid coming in and making plays. I have him 24th on my board. So I was surprised he wasn't drafted at all. I think Jalen Darden's worth a mention just because he's in Tampa Bay, even though he'll never see the field, just as a flyer for a long time. And then, of course, Mac Jones. We didn't get to, but you got to mention Mac Jones just because he's going to be a starting quarterback for at least a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of Mac Jones, we get to Superflex wise. Where did these guys fall? So our board, if you can watch this video on YouTube, you can see the total board. Oop, it kind of fell off right now. But it's back. That's our board, how it went from the top. Where do these quarterbacks slot into the board? Red is the quarterbacks that we have currently. Where do you think they go, Thomas?
I mean, obviously your quarterbacks. You're looking at top 3 picks.
Which ones? Where would you take them?
Oh, sure. You got Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance. I would say they're at your top 3. And then I don't really see Mac Jones and Zach Wilson falling any lower than that second round.
Well, but where do you slot them in? That's what I'm asking you.
Well, I mean,
who do you put them ahead of?
I don't need to look.
Yeah, we both have it pulled up on our side as well. So
I mean, what I would do is I got Trevor Lawrence 1-1, Trey Lance 1-2, Justin Fields 1-3. I'd take Zach Wilson over Jalen Waddle. I would take Mac Jones over Javonte Williams. So I put him. That would put 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Zach Wilson would be 1-8, 9, 10, and then Mac Jones would be 1-11 on my board. Because quarterbacks are so much more valuable in Superflex. They just, I mean, it's a quarterback position, and they're hard to find. Even if they don't pan out to anything, having Mac Jones is trade bait. I mean, even Mac Jones falling that far, he might not fall all the way down to 11, but I could see that.
I'd probably have Lawrence 1-1, Fields 1-2, and then Lance 1-3, and then I would slot Zach Wilson in between that Devontae Smith and Javonte Williams pick.
Yep.
And then I believe I would put Mac Jones. I would probably put him behind the Moores. I'd probably put.
Second round.
I would maybe. I mean, it's Mac Jones. He's not going to see the field this year for sure, and we also don't know what we're getting because he took a slide. You know, there were people that were high on him, but like we also think he's going to be the biggest bust. You know, but
first round quarterback.
That's the thing. I might slot him in between that Trey Sermon and Rondell Moore pick, as well.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. He's got to be ahead of those running backs. Those running backs are questionable. Javonte Williams is not even in a... I mean, he's going to be the starter at some point at the running back position, maybe.
Well, so is Mac Jones. He's 100% questionable.
We talking about a quarterback. Super
When's he going to start? When's he going to start?
Mid-season.
Maybe mid-season. Yeah.
Maybe. But we're saying the same thing about these productive running backs. I get it's super flex, but
fourth round pick.
I get it's super flex, but there's I feel like there's a lot of question marks still around Mac Jones, and so I'm not shitting on him terribly. I just have him at the end of the first round, at the beginning of the second.
I think if he falls to the second, you better be trading in that league to try and get up and get Mac Jones if you're in super flex, because if he these quarterbacks should all be going in the first round, all 5 of them. I would be surprised.
It could, like you mentioned, it could be a bust class though. So I mean, I don't know that I'm really willing to overpay or jump in and try to trade
that
for
value
these
you get for
there.
them though in that second starting slot. I mean, you have to value them higher than basically anyone else.
Yeah, it's in a good matchup. You're getting 20 plus points out of a guy. It's too easy. And Mac Jones will be the starter for at least 3 seasons, because you spend first round draft capital on a quarterback. He is going to be your starting quarterback. That's just it. So whether or not he is good is irrelevant. He is going to get the opportunity.
But if we are talking, let's say we are talking 12-team Superflex, that's 24 quarterbacks right there that we're valuing on, and then you've got guys who are going to ride the bench. Are you telling me that Mac Jones, we should trade up and he's going to be valued as a top 24 quarterback?
I'm saying if he doesn't go in the first round in your Superflex league, you're crazy, and that league's not smart, and you should trade into the second round early and take him.
I'm just saying.
Quarterbacks at that point are the position of scarcity. Running backs aren't necessarily the scarce ones anymore. So we're talking 24 quarterbacks. Like, how many more starting quarterbacks do you have out there to fill out for your third quarterback? Like, it's a luxury to have a third quarterback like that.
And a lot of teams have 4 quarterbacks in these leagues. So it gets tricky. So you're taking quarterbacks earlier than you want to. Mac Jones is going to be a first rounder, and I put him ahead of any of those running backs with questionable situations.
I would put him right behind Williams and Carter, personally. I would go Lawrence, Fields, Lance as the first 3. I'm going to put then Zach Wilson right after Waddle, then Mac Jones right between Williams and Carter.
In between Williams and Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
just because I do really like the potential that Williams is stepping into, and like Thomas did raise, there are a couple question marks about Mac Jones. He is going to be a starter. I'm thinking probably mid-season, especially with how Cam played before. But I think just because, again, like kind of you get more into positional scarcity when you go into Superflex, because you are starting 2 of these guys, and there's a limited amount. There's so many more running backs compared to quarterbacks.
Well, and in addition to positional scarcity at the quarterback position in Superflex, when you have a quarterback will be the starter for years, because guys like Teddy Bridgewater just jump team to team. You don't know if he's going to start. Jameis Winston at this point, you're never sure where is he going to be and start. These guys are guaranteed to be the starter. I mean, a few of them are going to be the starter for their entire careers. But the other one, like I said, Mac Jones will be starting in New England for at least 3 years. They drafted him in mid-first round. Whether or not he's good, he'll still get a shot.
I think it'll be similar to Daniel Jones. I think I'll have a similar career path where he's decent. He has to kind of fight to keep his starting job, but still he'll be starting for 4 or 5 years at least.
Just saying. I'm just saying. I think you got to draft him a little higher. But I don't know. Thomas, you're not very high on him. I understand. You're all about talent instead of the position just necessarily. So I understand. I'm not very high on Mac Jones. But
that's why a superflex team is a middling team.
Exactly. Middling superflex team. What was it? I was gonna change your name to the Quack, Thomas, instead of the Guru.
Yeah.
You're gonna be the Quack now.
Well, I guess we'll see how it goes this year when we do start an actual Superflex league.
That is true. That to come, we are going to draft our Superflex league,
and then we'll see who's middling and who's not, huh?
You guys got to do like a hair bet or something like that. You guys got to do some sort of like serious bet.
Oh, we can totally do some bets. I just love Thomas's always calls me a middling team when I won the league, and he's been in Dynasty for 3 years, and he's like, just because he beat me on draft night the first night because I got really, really drunk.
Well, I mean, I feel like we're meshing leagues here because we do have another league.
Yeah.
Which, I've only been in it for 3 years, but I won 2 of the 3 years, and so
that's the league I'm talking about, where I got super hammered at draft night and drafted terribly.
It's hard for me to take what you guys say seriously.
You did win the first 2 years. It is true. 2 out of 3 years is pretty okay.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
Yeah, I can't complain. All right. We've been on long enough. This has been quite a podcast. If you want to see the results again, I'm sure we will post them on everywhere we can post things. We also want to hear from you. Watch us on YouTube. Come check us out. Past the Projections at buzzsprout.com is our website. We're on anywhere you can listen to podcasts. We have a Facebook page. We all have Instagrams. We want to hear from you and let us know what you want to hear from us, because moving forward, we're going to be covering everything that has to do with the NFL and really giving you some of that keen insight. Anything you guys want to add before we get out of here?
Like and subscribe.
Love it. Adam Skinner, Thomas Lozano, Chris Roth, the coach, the guru, and the wizard signing off. We'll see y'all next week.
This guy's full of shit. He's not a believer in Jalen Hurts.
You got A.J. Dillon and Henry Ruggs,
Oh, don't even. Nah, they're not. I'll put them in the same sentence.
And I didn't have to pay up.
Yeah.
Still true.
How many guys do you have left on your board?
Who is left here?